When Lu Ping was about to reach Xian Ling Sec's encampment, he heard a loud bang in the air, followed by two screams. Cultivator Sharing Union's leader Zhang Jihe's voice came from afar. Lu Ziyuan, you entered the late blood condensation realm. Despicable. Not long after Lu Ping returned to the camp, Master Immortal Lu and Master Immortal Du returned. Master Immortal Du looked tired, but Master Immortal Lu looked fine. It seemed like there was a huge difference between mid and late blood condensation realm. Seeing that everyone was present, he asked, "Did you manage to eliminate the enemies? What were the casualties of our disciples?" Senior Yao Yong stepped forward and said, "Only 2 of them managed to escape. I think they'll be crippled as well. The rest were all executed. 5 of our juniors died, and 13 were injured. Most of them were cornered by the enemy, and both sides suffered heavy casualties." Master Lu let out a long sigh. "You must have thought that victory was in your grasp, right?" Everyone was shocked. Master Lu had hit the nail on the head. Master Lu continued, "In a battle of life and death, no matter when, where, and who, you have to give it your all. Why are you still in the mood to be complacent? Do you want to die too late?" Master Du, who was standing at the side, saw that Master Lu's face was already filled with anger. He quickly tried to smooth things over. "But after this, all of you should remember this lesson. Remember it well in the future." The disciples hurriedly nodded in agreement. Master Lu continued, "That Zhao Lingxiao has been killed by Master Du and me. Zhang Jihe used the blood spirit escape technique to escape with severe injuries. He won't be able to fully recover without a few years of careful recuperation. You can say that we have completed most of our training. It's getting late, so rest early today. Tomorrow, all of you will split up and go to the smaller islands under Xianqi Island to expel or kill the Xinling sect disciples. From now on, Xianqi Island will belong to us, Xinling sect." The disciples were all excited. They excused themselves and went to find a place to rest. When Lu Ping saw the 2 Master Immortals walking towards the pavilion, he felt that he shouldn't let everyone know about the spirit mine. Hence, he quickly followed them and waited for the 2 Master Immortals to enter the pavilion. Then, he slowly stepped forward to greet them. He heard Master Lu say from inside the pavilion, "Come in." Lu Ping entered the pavilion and saw that the 2 Master Immortals were already sitting cross-legged on 2 praying mats, smiling at Lu Ping. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. He thought that the 2 Master Immortals already knew what he had done. Master Immortal Du laughed. "When Brother Lu and I returned to the pavilion, we noticed that you were hesitating behind us. Do you have anything to say?" Only then did Lu Ping realize that his plan hadn't been exposed. He took a deep breath and told the 2 Master Immortals the story he had prepared beforehand. "What? A small spirit mine?" Master Immortal Lu was shocked. "Brother Lu, be quiet. What did that person look like? Did you see his face clearly?" Master Immortal Du was obviously more composed than usual. That person was dressed in black. It was the uniform of Xianling sect's outer disciples. He was extremely fast, and by the time I reached the bottom of the cliff, he had already disappeared. When I turned a corner, I realized that it was a spirit stone mine. I imprisoned the miners in the cave and didn't dare to make a sound. I hurriedly reported to the 2 Master Immortals. Master Immortal Lu finally recovered from his shock. "You did well, but from now on, this matter must not be publicized." Lu Ping hurriedly nodded. Master Immortal Du smiled bitterly. "I'm afraid that the other resources on the island have already been looted by that person." Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. Master Immortal Lu continued, "Those are just some superficial wealth. As long as the garden is not destroyed, it will be fine. It's only a matter of time before it recovers. Even 10 times the value of those things can't compare to the spirit stone mine. If anything goes wrong, it will be a huge loss." Master Immortal Du nodded. "Fortunately, Enlightened Master Chu is on Xianhua Island. We need to send the message quickly. It's only 500 miles away. We'll arrive in no time." Master Immortal Lu said gravely, "I'm afraid that this matter is also out of Marshal Uncle Chu's control. I'm afraid that he will have to report this to his superiors." Master Immortal Du shook his head. "That's not something we should worry about. Fortunately, this raid was successful. Even if there were a few survivors, they wouldn't be able to send the message as quickly as we did. It's a good chance for us to make the first move." As he finished speaking, he took out a talisman. Lu Ping recognized it as a sound transmission talisman. However, it was a talisman that could only be refined by a blood condensation cultivator. The surface of this talisman was golden in color, and it was clearly made by a core forging enlightened master. Sure enough, after Master Immortal Lu said a few words to the talisman, he tossed it out. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. Chapter 22. Just as Lu Ping retreated, he found a place to study the map again. Suddenly, a blinding red light flew from the north and arrived above Xianqi Island in an instant. An overwhelming pressure enveloped the entire island. Then, as if it had discovered something, the red light disappeared into the pavilion. A commotion broke out among the disciples, but Lu Ping knew it was enlightened Master Chu, the finale of this mission. When Lu Ping was in the pavilion, he already knew that Jinling had come prepared. The spies were just an excuse. However, the appearance of the spirit stone mine seemed to complicate the situation. A moment later, 2 Master Immortals rushed out of the pavilion and gathered the disciples. Enlightened Master Chu has ordered all disciples to depart immediately and attack the surrounding seas and islands of Xianqi Island. If you encounter any Xianling cultivators, kill them without mercy. If you are no match for them, especially if you encounter the leader of the cultivator-sharing union, Zhang Jihe, send out the signal immediately. Master Immortal Du and I will be there soon." The disciples nodded in agreement. This time, no one dared to delay. Everyone took out their mystic instruments and flew towards the surrounding areas of Xianqi Island. The direction Lu Ping chose was the southeast. There was a mini-island about 100 miles away from Xianqi Island. On it was a mini-mine that produced about 60 spirit stones a day. According to Xianling sect's rule of collecting spirit stones once every 5 days, that was 300 spirit stones a day. Apart from Xianqi Island, this was one of the most important locations. However, he didn't know how strong the cultivators stationed there were. Lu Ping stuffed an essence-replenishing pill into his mouth. "Even if I'm a peak 9th layer blood condensation realm cultivator, I still have to fight them." The islands in the sea were divided into 4 levels. Those with a circumference of 10 miles were called small islands. Those with a circumference of 50 miles were called small islands. Those with a circumference of 100 to 200 miles were called medium islands. Those with a circumference of 500 miles were called large islands, and those with a circumference of 1,000 miles were called large islands. Jinling was one of the most powerful sects in the North Sea region, and even Jinling only had a large island as its headquarters, which was about 700 miles in circumference. However, there was a large spirit vein on the true Spirit Island, which had been cultivated by Jinling for tens of thousands of years, and was more than enough for Jinling's current development. Lu Ping used the flight-type artifact small spirit boat and arrived at the miniature island called Yellow Jade Island in just the time it took for an incense stick to burn. Lu Ping deliberately flew to a high vantage point to look down at the island and found that it was relatively peaceful. Because it was nighttime, there were only a few fishing fires left in the mortal's residence. Lu Ping pondered for a moment. Then he took out the Xianling sect disciple uniform and put it on again. Then, he rushed towards the location marked on the map. He knew that the residence of the disciples stationed on the island was definitely not too far from the Spirit Stone mine. Just as Lu Ping was about half a mile away from the location marked on the map, a cold voice came from behind a rock in front of him. "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" Lu Ping secretly thanked his lucky stars. If it wasn't for the Xianling sect uniform, there was a high chance that the person hiding behind the rock would ambush him. Lu Ping pretended to be anxious and said, "Senior Martial Brother, it's me. Master Immortal Zhao Lingxiao has an urgent matter, and he ordered me to inform Senior Martial Brother to come to Xianqi Island as soon as possible." "Oh," the person replied, then asked, "Do you know what it is?" Lu Ping cursed under his breath, then continued to make up a story. Master Immortal Zhao said that Jinling might attack Xianqi Island, so he ordered the senior martial brothers stationed on the surrounding islands to return as soon as possible. Master Immortal Zhao has already sent a cultivator from the cultivator-sharing union back to the sect. The person behind the rock finally walked out and said, "I was wondering why you were in such a hurry to rush to my residence. So that's why." Lu Ping looked at the cultivator walking towards him and was secretly pleased with himself. However, when he heard the cultivator's words, his heart tightened. So senior martial brother has been following me all this time. The person shook his head and said, "It's a type of warning talisman scattered around Huangyu Island. After you arrived on the island, you activated the talisman and I knew." Looking at the approaching cultivator, Lu Ping smiled and said, "So that's how it is. And here I thought senior martial brother had reached the blood condensation realm and cultivated a divine sense." The person shook his head and smiled bitterly. How could it be so easy? It took me a lot of effort to gather a few spiritual herbs to refine the blood condensation pill. I don't know when I'll be able to gather the rest. Hearing this, Lu Ping was overjoyed. He said, "If that's the case, then die." Before he could finish speaking, a sword ray had already slashed towards him. The friar was caught off guard. In his shock, he only had time to throw out a supreme-grade dermic weapon. He exclaimed, "You're not a disciple of our sect. Who are you?" Lu Ping's voice was stern. "The person who will take your life." As he spoke, he didn't give the cultivator a chance to catch his breath. Another 2 supreme-grade blood talismans flew out. The friar's dermic weapon was cut in half by Lu Ping's sword. Lu Ping's attack left a half-foot-long gash on his body. The friar had just taken out a pagoda-shaped dermic weapon, but before he could activate it, 2 blood talismans knocked it down. The power of a supreme-grade talisman was second only to a blood condensation cultivator's attack. Lu Ping stabbed at him again, forcing him to take out his dermic weapon from his storage bag. The friar could only form hand seals and cast 4 to 5 spells in an attempt to slow down Lu Ping's attack. Lu Ping casually slapped a supreme-grade protective blood talisman on his body. He no longer cared about defending and only focused on attacking. Seeing that his spells were useless on his opponent, the friar couldn't help but curse in despair. "Supreme-grade blood talisman, you're despicable." He didn't know whether to curse Lu Ping for using blood talismans, or Lu Ping for tricking him into attacking him. Just as he finished cursing, Lu Ping had already taken his head with another slash. Looking at the spurting blood, Lu Ping still felt a little uncomfortable even though he had already taken a few lives. He took 2 storage bags from the cultivator's body and quickly left. He went to another place on the island to collect a few dozen caddies of spirit grains. There were some spiritual materials in other places, but it wasn't time yet. It was pointless to go there. Lu Ping simply turned around and flew to another island. On the way, Lu Ping looked at his spoils of war. There were 160 spirit stones in the storage bag. The cultivator stationed on the island could get 20% of the island's resources. The cultivator must have taken out his share. 60 caddies of spirit grains were only 20 spirit stones. On the other hand, the cultivator's interspatial pouch contained some good stuff. The tower-shaped mystic instrument was actually a mid-grade defensive mystic instrument, which left Lu Ping speechless. Fortunately, Lu Ping reacted quickly and blasted the mystic instrument away with the blood charm before the cultivator could cast it out. Otherwise, the battle would have been much more difficult. This solved his problem of changing into a 9th-layer blood refining realm cultivator. Although he could use a mid-grade mystic instrument now, it was still quite difficult. This was also because his arcane energy was more abundant than ordinary people. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to think about using a mid-grade mystic instrument. A low-grade offensive mystic instrument, a mace, looked very mighty. 3 bottles of supreme-grade medicinal pills for 9th-layer blood refining realm cultivators, blood vigor pills. These pills were much better than the ones Lu Ping had seen before. 3 stalks of 500-year-old spiritual herbs were required to concoct the blood-condensing pills. Although Lu Ping had obtained 2 of them before, it didn't affect his ability to exchange them for blood-condensing pills in Junling. Among the 24 types of 500-year-old spiritual herbs required to concoct the blood-condensing pills, as long as he gathered 8 of them, he could exchange them for a blood-condensing pill. There were close to 200 spirit stones. Guarding a spirit stone mine was indeed a lucrative job. Not only could he use the best medicinal pills for cultivation, but he could also save a lot of spirit stones. There was also a talisman crafting jade scroll. To be able to craft a rare talisman like the warning talisman, This Xianling sect cultivator must have a high level of talisman crafting skills. Lu Ping placed the jade scroll on his forehead. Lu Ping knew how to craft most of the talismans inside. There was also a summary of the cultivator's talisman crafting experience. Finally, there was the method of crafting the warning talisman that made Lu Ping salivate. Lu Ping was not in the mood to count the other spiritual materials and miscellaneous items. Chapter 23. Xianqi Island had 16 smaller islands under its jurisdiction. After leaving Huangyu Island, Lu Ping flew towards the east. That was the furthest island under Xianqi Island's jurisdiction, Huangli Island. This time, Zhenling sect had the absolute advantage in the purge of Xianling sect's disciples. There were too many wolves, but not enough meat. Everyone knew this was an opportunity to make a fortune, and no one wanted to fall behind. Other than Huangyu Island, there were other islands that were more lucrative than Huangli Island. However, by the time Lu Ping went to other islands, there would only be scraps left. Hence, he might as well try his luck on Huangli Island. According to the map, Huangli Island was one of the more desolate of the 16 islands. Normally, it could only be used as a spiritual grain production base. Fortunately, there were a few spots with dense spiritual energy. 5 mu of spiritual fields were opened up, and every 3 months, a batch of spiritual grains could be harvested up to 500 jin of spiritual grains. Lu Ping could be said to be filthy rich, but he still couldn't bear to part with the meat on the leg of a mosquito. 15 minutes later, Lu Ping arrived at Huangli Island. He quickly swallowed an essence-replenishing pill to recover his arcane energy. In just 2 short days, he had been eating essence-replenishing pills like jelly beans. Indeed, spirit stones were spent like water in battle. The one guarding Huangli Island was a Xianling 8th layer blood refining realm disciple. Without a word, Lu Ping thrust his flying sword towards his chest. Before the disciple realized why this fellow disciple wanted to kill him, he could only roll to the side in panic. However, his shoulder blade was still pierced by Lu Ping. There was no suspense in what happened next. This Xianling sect disciple was severely injured. Whether it was his cultivation, his magical equipment, or his wealth, he was no match for Lu Ping. His only fate was to die. Lu Ping's harvesting skills had improved a lot over the past few days. In just 2 hours, he had already harvested 5 acres of spirit grains that were divided into 7 or 8 areas on the island. From this fallen Xianling sect disciple, Lu Ping didn't gain much. After all, he was only an 8th layer Xianling sect disciple, and he was sent to this remote island to plant spirit grains. It was obvious that he wasn't welcomed by the sect. There were only a few dozen spirit stones in the storage pouch, and only a low-grade flying knife as a magic weapon. Unfortunately, he was killed before he could use it, and Lu Ping took advantage of it in vain. Some of the medicinal pills were normal as well. He had the same cultivation level as Lu Ping, but he was actually using the blood purification pill that Lu Ping had already eliminated long ago. However, the 50 kilograms of spirit grain inside was not bad. Lu Ping threw a few ice thorn talismans and golden dagger talismans towards the fishing boats that were running around. The golden dagger talismans cut the ropes of the fishing nets, while the ice thorn talismans pierced into the sea, bringing up another flower of blood. When the fishermen of Huangli Island saw that the immortal elder had easily resolved a disaster, they couldn't help but sing praises for Lu Ping loudly. The fishermen on the rescued boats were even more grateful to Lu Ping. For a moment, Lu Ping was at a loss as to what to do. Lu Ping wanted to show off for Zhenling. He raised his voice and shouted, "I am a disciple of Zhenling. From today onwards, Huangli Island will be under Zhenling's rule. Our sect will naturally protect the islanders." Sure enough, the islanders didn't have any dissatisfaction with the change of sect. They simply agreed in unison. At this moment, a muffled thunder resounded from afar. Only now did Lu Ping realize that it wasn't thunder. Perhaps someone was fighting. These sea beasts were probably frightened by the fight and fled in all directions. The fishermen of Huangli Island were caught in the crossfire. Lu Ping's mind shuddered. Who else would know how to fight at this moment? He quickly cast a sound amplification spell and shouted towards the fishing boats outside the harbor, "Quickly return to the harbor. Everyone on the island, return to your homes. Beware of trouble." Nobody dared to question Lu Ping. One after another, They returned to their boats. Just as everyone on the island was evacuated, a blood-red light was flying towards the direction of Huangli Island. Behind the blood-red light, a fleeing light was hot on its tail. When the fleeing light got closer, Lu Ping realized that the cultivator in the blood-red light was Zhang Jihe, who had escaped earlier. A loud shout came from the fleeing light behind. "Is that Marshal Nephew Lu in front?" Quickly stopped the remnants of the cultivator sharing union. It was Master Immortal Du Zichao. Lu Ping felt bitter in his heart. That Zhang Jihe was an early blood condensation realm expert. Even though he was severely injured, he was still not someone that an 8th layer blood refining realm cultivator like him could handle. "I'll just have to risk it. At most, I'll be heavily injured once. As long as I can hold on for a while, Master Immortal Du will be able to catch up." Seeing that the blood-red light was getting closer and closer, Lu Ping raised his right hand. An iron seal flew up and spun in the air. It grew to a size of several meters and smashed towards the blood-red light. At the same time, a bronze mirror floated above Lu Ping's head. His left hand only had enough time to strike out a supreme-grade diamond blood talisman. Then, he heard the cultivator sharing union's leader, Zhang Jihe, shouting angrily from within the blood-red light, "You're courting death." Chapter 24. Lu Ping was frightened by Zhang Jihe's attack and almost suffered internal injuries. How could a heavily injured blood condensation cultivator be so powerful? Little did he know that Zhang Jihe was furious. He thought that a casual attack from him would be enough to kill this 8th layer blood refining realm minor repairs cultivator. He didn't expect that this cultivator's cultivation level was so high that not only was he unharmed, he even managed to block Zhang Jihe's attack. Master Immortal Du, who was behind him, shouted out of desperation. He didn't expect Lu Ping to actually block Zhang Jihe's attack. Just as Zhang Jihe paused for a moment, Master Immortal Du's high-grade flying fish sword pierced through Zhang Jihe's back. Zhang Jihe had no hope of escaping and could only turn around to face the attack. Lu Ping knew that he had ruined Zhang Jihe's plan. He was worried that Zhang Jihe would be driven to desperate measures and that Master Immortal Du would order him to block Zhang Jihe's attack again, so he had already retreated far away. However, Lu Ping was overthinking. Zhang Jihe was already an arrow at the end of its flight. He had used the blood escape technique twice with injuries and was already at the end of his rope. A moment later, Lu Ping heard a blood-curdling scream in mid-air. Zhang Jihe had been killed by Master Immortal Du with a single strike. Lu Ping hurried forward and reported to Master Immortal Du what had happened since yesterday. Master Immortal Du gave him a few words of praise and then briefly explained to Lu Ping how he killed Zhang Jihe. It turned out that a disciple who was training yesterday had coincidentally encountered Zhang Jihe on a small island. Before this disciple died, he released a signal and Master Immortal Du happened to be the closest to him. After rushing over, the two of them engaged in a fierce battle. Zhang Jihe was already heavily injured and was no match for Master Immortal Du, so he had no choice but to use the blood escape technique again. Unfortunately, Master Immortal Du was prepared this time and chased after him. In the end, he was blocked by Lu Ping and died. In the end, Master Immortal Du took out a jade scroll and said, "This scroll records Zhang Jihe's blood escape secret technique. This secret technique is quite useful in preserving one's life. This time, you were able to block Zhang Jihe's attack and save me a lot of trouble. Take this jade scroll." Lu Ping was very excited. Secret skills could become more powerful as one's cultivation increased. Although there was always a certain price to pay for using secret skills, every secret skill was a means to kill enemies and save one's life. It was never a bad thing to have more skills. In the last ranking tournament, the top 8 had received a secret technique as a reward. Lu Ping had been brooding over the fact that he did not participate in the top 16 battles. Now, he felt much better. Master Immortal Du looked at Lu Ping's excited expression and said, "Elder Chu has ordered that the disciples must return to Xianqi Island as soon as possible after completing their mission. You can return with me." The flying speed of a blood condensation realm cultivator was indeed amazing. Thanks to Master Immortal Du, Lu Ping used a quarter of the time that Lu Ping took to return to Xianqi Island. At this time, there were many changes on the island. The island's protective array formation had been activated by Jinling once again. Moreover, it seemed to be even more powerful than before. Jinling cultivators of the blood condensation realm flew across the sky from time to time. The entire Xianqi Island was filled with a murderous aura. The disciples who were originally excited about completing their mission were also affected by the atmosphere. The excitement on their faces disappeared. Lu Ping found the other members of Group 7. Through Lingling, who returned first, he learned that 3 more blood condensation realm cultivators had arrived on the island last night. Everyone was shocked by the arrival of 3 more blood condensation realm cultivators. Are we really going to start a war with Xinling sect? First senior martial brother Yao Yong asked in confusion. Who knows? It seems like they won't need us anymore, Lingling said. Lu Ping knew the reason, but he was not stupid enough to explain it to them. While everyone was talking, they saw 3 core forging stage enlightened masters flying over from outside the island and landing in the pavilion. Everyone was dumbfounded and looked at each other in dismay. 7 core forging realm enlightened masters. After a while, Lingling smiled bitterly and said, "Looks like something big is going to happen." Everyone was silent. Sure enough, in the afternoon, Master Immortal Lu came to inform them that the mission was completed ahead of schedule. The disciples were to return to Jinling Side Hall as soon as possible to reflect on their experiences and improve their cultivation. Including the disciples stationed on Xianhua Island, there were a total of 40 people who participated in the mission. When everyone returned to Xianhua Island, only 32 people were left, and half of them were injured. There were a total of 8 disciples in Group 7 who were at least in the 8th layer of the blood refining realm. The 8th senior martial brother, who had just broken through to the blood refining realm after the grand competition, had died in the mission to eliminate the disciples that Xianling had stationed on Mini Island last night. Even though the surviving disciples had gained a lot from the mission, the remaining 7 people in Group 7 were still in low spirits. After returning to the side hall, Lu Ping went into his cultivation room and started his closed-door cultivation. Lu Ping might not have gained the most out of the 40 disciples, but he was also one of the ones who gained the most. More importantly, his cultivation was on the verge of breaking through after 2 days of training. The level 3 disciples were no longer forced to cultivate by the Master Immortal, and they could use their time freely. 7 days later, with a sufficient supply of medicinal pellets, Lu Ping finally entered the late stage of the 8th layer. He began to slowly accumulate arcane energy and advance to the 9th layer. After finishing his closed-door cultivation, Lu Ping sorted out the miscellaneous items he obtained from the mission and sold them in the market. Although these spiritual herbs, spiritual materials, and miscellaneous ores were not worth much, there was a lot of them. Lu Ping got his hands on 220 spirit stones. He then replenished himself with a large number of blood purification pills, vitality recovery pills, spirit recovery pills, and other elixirs to recover arcane energy, healing pills, and other daily necessities. He spent all the spirit stones he had on hand. At this time, the other teams that went out for training began to return one after another. The returning disciples made the side hall's market bustling with activity. At the same time, all kinds of news about the mission spread in the side hall. Another 7 days passed, and Lu Ping sold a few hundred caddies of spirit grains in the market. Based on the exchange rate of 1 spirit stone for 3 caddies of spirit grains, Lu Ping earned another 300 spirit stones. Other than buying medicinal pellets and talisman papers, he also bought 20 blood spirit pills that could replenish blood essence. In the blink of an eye, he spent 200 of the 300 spirit stones he got. At this time, the news about Jinling's mission spread in the market and the side hall. Almost all of the participants were Xianling sect and its affiliated forces. The 20 teams and the disciples from the other sects had conquered 17 small islands and their affiliated islands belonging to Xianling sect, Soaring Feather sect, Songlang sect, and the other 2 sections. The other 3 small islands that had not been conquered had also caused heavy casualties to the cultivators stationed on those islands. At the same time, Jinling accused Xianling sect and the North Sea Alliance of instructing its disciples to disguise themselves as rogue cultivators, forming the Cultivator Sharing Union, Cultivator Sharing Association, and the other 4 groups to infiltrate Jinling and the other sects' territories to spy on information and hunt down other sects' disciples. At the same time, Songlang sect, Jade Sword sect, and the other 4 sects also produced the relevant evidence to support Zhenling. Naturally, Xianling's sect refuted with all their might, saying that Zhenling was a thief crying thief, and that it was an excuse to invade Xianling's sect and the other 4 sections. They also called on the other sects in the North Sea Alliance to condemn Zhenling and the other sects for their sinful behavior. For a time, the North Sea Alliance's sects were in conflict. Although the Spirit Stone mine was an accident, it was obvious that both parties had deeper arrangements and backups. However, Lu Ping had a feeling that the 2 sides wouldn't fight. At most, they would settle the matter peacefully. Although he didn't know the reason, judging from the peaceful expressions on the faces of the immortals in the side hall, there wasn't the slightest trace of solemnity during a war. Another 7 days passed. Lu Ping looked at the set of top-grade early warning talismans that he had just made in front of him. This early warning talisman was extremely difficult to make. This was the first time Lu Ping had successfully made a set of top-grade early warning talismans after obtaining the production method. This set of early warning talismans consisted of a primary talisman and 8 child talismans. It could roughly monitor the situation within a mile around him. Although it wasn't as detailed as Divine Sense, it still had some special features that Divine Sense couldn't. Unfortunately, this child warning talisman only had the production method for blood refining realm cultivators. Otherwise, when he obtained Divine Sense, he would have a better production method. The 2 could complement each other, and it would be a good choice. At this time, there were rumors of battles between core forging realm enlightened masters on the east and west sides of the sea. Xianling's sect had retaken 3 islands, but Xianling's sect still firmly occupied 14 islands. Among them, Zhenling alone occupied 9 islands. Another rumor said that something strange had happened in the southern sea. One day, the sky alternated between clear and dark, but there wasn't a single cloud in the sky. The fishermen who went fishing didn't encounter any wind or waves. On the contrary, the sea beasts that usually wreaked havoc were all gone. The fishermen had a good harvest that day. Another 7 days passed, and a blood-red shadow suddenly appeared in the forest behind the side hall. From the shadow, a young man about 17 or 18 years old appeared. It was Lu Ping. Lu Ping's face was unusually pale, as if he had just recovered from a serious illness. However, his expression was one of excitement. "I've finally mastered the blood escape technique. These days, I've been eating so many blood spirit pills to replenish the blood essence I've used to cultivate the blood escape technique." At this time, both Zhenling and Xianling's sect suddenly fell silent. Even their affiliated forces had stopped fighting. For a moment, the North Sea cultivators who had been paying attention to the situation were at a loss as to what to do. Lu Ping thought about how Zhenling had mobilized 7 core forging realm enlightened masters in an instant. With such ample preparation and resolute attitude, Zhenling's sect would definitely hold back for fear of harming the innocent. It seemed that this conflict would most likely be resolved peacefully. However, it was likely that Zhenling wouldn't let go of the spirit mine. In other aspects, Zhenling would also have to take a step back. Another 7 days passed. Lu Ping carefully organized all the mystic artifacts he had on him. There were a total of 7 low-grade mystic artifacts: the Iron Seal Landslide, the Copper Mirror, the Flying Knife, the Mace, the Jade Scepter, the Flying Sword, the Jade Bottle, and a mid-grade mystic artifact, Mountain Suppressing Pagoda. After some consideration, Lu Ping eliminated the Flying Knife, the Mace, the Jade Scepter, and the Flying Sword. Instead, he carefully refined the remaining 4 mystic artifacts. At the same time, he decided to exchange them for a mid-grade Flying Sword mystic artifact in preparation for his breakthrough to the 9th layer blood refining realm. At this time, the news of the peace talks between Xianling's sect and Zhenling had already spread. Since Zhenling had the moral high ground, he would definitely take over the 14 islands as a fait accompli. On the other hand, Xianling's sect would try its best to shirk its responsibility and rely on its powerful strength and alliance to put pressure on Zhenling. Now, both sides' focus was on the 14 islands. Another 7 days passed. Lu Ping had spent 2 months digesting the results of the 2 days of training. Naturally, the results were to Lu Ping's satisfaction. At the same time, the The sect also distributed the rewards according to each team member's contribution and performance. Hiding the fact that he killed the cultivators outside the spirit mine, Lu Ping killed 2 Xianling sect disciples and received 20 contribution points. Assisting his teammates in killing 3 Xianling sect disciples earned him 15 contribution points. This was an excellent result. After all, Jinling had the upper hand when they took over Xianqi Island. It wasn't easy for them to gain the upper hand in the encirclement. At the same time, there were 2 hidden rewards. Assisting Master Immortal Du in killing Zhang Jihe and discovering and reporting the news of the spirit mine in time. For some reason, Master Immortal Du also hid the first reward. These 2 rewards gave Lu Ping 20 contribution points each. Adding on the fact that he reported the cultivator sharing union to Master Immortal Lu Ping now had a total of 85 contribution points. In order to participate in the trade fair between the side hall and the outer sect disciples, Lu Ping organized his belongings. He had about 3,200 spirit stones, and this was the result of consuming a large amount of spirit stones in the past 2 months. 5 stalks of 500-year-old spiritual herbs for concocting blood-condensing pills. 1 stalk of 500-year-old spiritual herb for concocting blood condensation realm pills. For unused low-grade mystic artifacts. A large amount of blood refining realm pills. Chapter 26. 12 Fangs of a Late-Stage First-Order Demonic Beast, Sharp Fang Fish. They are used to refine low-grade magic tools. I wish to exchange them for 2 bottles of cultivation pills for the 8th or 9th layer of blood refining realm. Lu Ping couldn't help shaking his head in disappointment as he watched a monastery disciple display his harvest from the trial. At the same time, he was exchanging for the cultivation resources he needed. Originally, Lu Ping had held some hope for this trade fair. He thought he would be able to exchange for some of the things he needed. However, this trade fair only had 1/3 of the participants, and all of them were displaying things that Lu Ping didn't need. No wonder only 80 or 90 out of the 150 monastery disciples and outer sect disciples participated in the trade fair. That was especially true of the famous 9th layer blood refining disciples from the monastery and outer sect. Not even a single one of them showed up. It wasn't that these things weren't good. After all, which disciple didn't have any harvest from the trial? Who would take out something that was unpresentable just to embarrass themselves in front of others? However, Lu Ping was now rich. He had long since turned his nose up at these things that were considered precious by ordinary blood refining realm disciples. While the ordinary blood refining realm upper echelon disciples were still haggling over a low-grade mystic instrument, a bottle of medicinal pellets, or dozens of spirit stones, Lu Ping had long set his sights on mid-grade mystic instruments, blood-condensing pellets, and other higher-grade items. Just as Lu Ping was about to leave, a rather famous 9th layer disciple walked onto the stage. He took out a 500-year-old spirit grass that was used to refine blood-condensing pills, causing the disciples below to gasp in surprise. Lu Ping also straightened his back and listened attentively to this person's request. Concocting blood-condensing pills requires a 500-year-old spirit grass, fragrant astringent grass. I wish to exchange it for pills for the 9th layer of blood refining realm. The higher the grade, the better. An outer disciple who knew him couldn't help but ask, "Senior apprentice brother Su, why did you take out this spirit grass? If you have 8 of them, you can exchange them for blood-condensing pills from our sect." Senior apprentice brother Su looked at the crowd and smiled. "I already have some ideas about the blood-condensing pills. Now, I just need to improve my cultivation." Senior apprentice brother Su enjoyed the envious gazes from the crowd. Is there anyone who wants to exchange for it? The crowd finally regained their senses. It was clear how important the blood-condensing pills and the blood condensation realm were to the blood refining realm disciples. Everyone started to estimate their own wealth to see if they could get this precious spirit grass. Senior apprentice brother, can I exchange it with spirit stones? Senior apprentice brother, can I exchange it with other items of similar value? Senior martial brother Su frowned and said, "I'm sorry, I only want medicinal pills. I don't need spiritual stones or anything else." Senior brother, I have 3 bottles of blood cleansing pills with a total of 30 pills. If it's not enough, I'll make up for it with spirit stones. How about that? The disciple who spoke quickly borrowed spirit stones from the surrounding disciples. Blood purification pills? That's a pill used by cultivators in the 6th or 7th layer of blood refining realm. Senior brother, I have 3 bottles of blood essence pills and 6 bottles of blood purification pills. What do you think? I'm sorry, I need at least 6 bottles of blood essence pills for the 8th and 9th layer blood refining realm. Blood purification pills are of little value to me. As soon as senior apprentice brother Sue finished speaking, the chaotic crowd quieted down. Only a few people were still borrowing pills from the surrounding disciples, hoping to gather the required amount. Looking at the chaotic scene below the stage, senior brother Sue was a little disappointed. It wasn't that no one could afford this spirit grass, but the problem was that there weren't that many pills in such a short amount of time. Even if someone managed to gather all the pills, he was afraid that in the future, this person would not have enough pills, and it would affect his cultivation. Senior apprentice brother Sue, what do you think of this pill? A 17-year-old disciple stood up and tossed a jade bottle to senior apprentice brother Sue. Senior apprentice brother Sue caught the bottle and opened it. His eyes lit up and he quickly asked, Junior apprentice brother, how many of these pills do you have? If you have enough, I'll trade with you. Lu Ping smiled and said, I was lucky to get this 1 bottle, but I can add 3 more bottles of blood essence pills in exchange for senior apprentice brother's fragrant astringent grass. What do you think? When senior apprentice brother Sue heard that there was only 1 bottle, he was disappointed. However, when he heard that Lu Ping could take out enough blood essence pills, he was satisfied. He said, in that case, this spirit grass is yours, junior apprentice brother. When the crowd saw that Lu Ping had traded for a spirit grass, they were shocked by Lu Ping's wealth and wondered what kind of pills Lu Ping had used. 1 bottle was equivalent to 3 bottles of blood essence pills. Naturally, that bottle was the best pill for blood refining cultivators, the blood vigor pill. Lu Ping ignored the crowd's discussion and directly went up to trade with senior apprentice brother Sue. At the same time, he whispered to senior apprentice brother Sue, I wonder if senior apprentice brother Sue has any more spirit grass to refine the blood condensing pill? I can use 6 more bottles of blood essence pills to trade. Although senior apprentice brother Sue was shocked by Lu Ping's generosity, he could only smile helplessly. He said, these spirit grass are not easy to obtain. I only managed to collect 3 of them before. Because I already know how to refine the blood condensing pill, I used 2 of them to trade for a magic tool and a pill. This is the last one. Helpless, Lu Ping could only return to his seat. Previously, Lu Ping had easily obtained 5 spirit grass to refine the blood condensing pill, so he didn't think that these spirit grass were very precious. However, the craziness of the exchange this time shocked Lu Ping. Only now did he realize the true value of the 5 spirit grass he had. But he had already obtained 6 of them, and the blood condensing pill was just around the corner. After the disturbance of the spirit grass, the exchange finally began to show some signs of improvement. Quite a few valuable items were placed on the stage, and the disciples below were all fighting over them. The atmosphere immediately became lively. Lu Ping also felt that his horizons had been broadened a bit. As expected, there were quite a few people who had made great gains during this experiential training. Lu Ping was also quite interested in some of the items on display. Unfortunately, none of those items were of use to Lu Ping. Finally, it was Lu Ping's turn to present his treasures. Everyone was looking at this monastery disciple who had obtained the fragrant astringent grass. They all wanted to see just what sort of treasure he would bring out. Lu Ping had originally come for the middle-grade enchanted tools, but by the time the exchange was over halfway, only a few low-grade enchanted tools had appeared. That made Lu Ping a bit disappointed. If he went up now to exchange for a middle-grade enchanted tool, then ignoring whether or not he would be able to obtain it, the attention he would gain would be too great. So Lu Ping changed his plans. Lu Ping directly took out a wooden box from his storage pouch. Opening it, he revealed a stack of talismans. 50 high-grade talismans. I hope to exchange them for iron of the same value. Chapter 27. Lu Ping's transaction could be considered as a large sum of money. After all, these 50 high-grade talismans were worth 150 spirit stones, which Lu Ping had saved over a long period of time. Even if he were to buy an ordinary mid-grade magic tool, it would only be 100 to 150 spirit stones. After Lu Ping finished speaking, the people below the stage were also puzzled. Fine iron can at most be used to refine mid-grade magic tools. With so many talismans, an ordinary mid-grade magic tool should be enough. Why is he exchanging it for so much fine iron? Could it be that this person wants to learn the art of refining? Lu Ping just quietly waited for the people below the stage to bid. He naturally had his own ideas. His favorite landslide was refined using a portion of the fine iron. Lu Ping wanted to upgrade it to a mid-grade magic tool. In addition to its attack characteristics, he would undoubtedly need a large amount of fine iron to upgrade it to the mid-grade. Originally, Lu Ping had a lot of fine copper ores on hand. It was barely enough to upgrade landslide. However, Lu Ping considered that the raw materials for landslide were all iron-type spirit ores. Therefore, he felt that it would be better to continue using iron-type spirit ores to upgrade it. Lu Ping waited on the stage for a while, but no one came forward to bid. Although there were many people below the stage who were interested in these 50 talismans, Lu Ping specifically stated that he wanted fine iron ores, which made these people feel quite helpless. At this time, they only heard a rough and loud voice say embarrassedly, "Hee, I don't know if this senior brother can use black iron ores to exchange for it." When the people below the stage heard black iron ores, they were in an uproar again. This was a spirit, or that could be used to refine high-grade magic tools. Lu Ping's eyes lit up. Regardless of the people around him trying to dissuade him, he quickly said, "How much do you have? I want it all." A simple and honest-looking young man with a big beard stood up and threw his storage pouch to Lu Ping. He chuckled and said, "Although it's not much, you don't have enough talismans." His clear eyes coupled with his honest face were still very deceptive. When the cultivators around him saw that his companion wasn't muddle-headed, they no longer tried to dissuade him. They only looked at Lu Ping. Lu Ping looked at the black iron in the bag. It was more than enough to upgrade landslide to high grade. He pondered for a moment and said, "What else do you need?" The large man's eyes lit up and said, "Magic tool, low grade is fine, but it must be handy. Also, add some spirit stones and talismans." Lu Ping looked at the cultivator that was half a head taller and said, "What do you think of this magic tool?" A mace mystic instrument flew out from Lu Ping's interspatial pouch, and the bearded cultivator caught it. Seeing the mighty magic artifact, the bearded cultivator was overjoyed. He impatiently picked it up and brandished it a few times, causing the surrounding cultivators to flee in fear while swearing loudly. The bearded cultivator didn't pay attention to these people and only said, "Good, very good. The quality is considered high among low-level magic tools. This is it. I'll add another 50 spirit stones. Is that enough?" The friar was familiarizing himself with the magic tool in his hand. "It's enough." The friar was familiarizing himself with the magic tool in his hand. He said, "It's enough." The cultivators that came with him felt helpless. Lu Ping unexpectedly obtained something he was even more satisfied with. He walked down the stage, and the trade fair continued. At this point, the trade fair had entered its second half. Cultivators with good items were constantly exchanging them for the items they needed on the treasure offering stage. The cultivators below the stage were also scrambling to buy the items they needed. There were even signs of competition to raise the prices, which intrigued Lu Ping. A small outer sect disciple trade fair was already so intense. Lu Ping heard that there would sometimes be auctions for blood refining cultivators. The items there were even more precious. How intense would it be? After that, Lu Ping spent another 50 spirit stones to exchange for a stack of 100 talisman papers. These were high-grade talisman papers made by a cultivator who specialized in talisman making. They could increase the success rate and quality of talisman making. Lu Ping even discussed a long-term partnership with him. When the trade fair was about to end, a female cultivator took out 2 bottles of blood-solidifying pills and said that she wanted to exchange them for top-grade talismans. This caused the trade fair to reach its climax. The blood-solidifying pill was a type of pill between the blood essence pill and the blood vigor pill. It was a good item that 8th and 9th layer blood refining cultivators would crave for. However, the female cultivator clearly stated that she would only exchange for top-grade talismans. This caused the cultivators present to complain. 2 bottles of blood solidifying pills were enough to exchange for 30 to 40 top-grade talismans. How could an ordinary blood-refining cultivator have so many top-grade talismans? Even a blood-refining cultivator who specialized in talisman making would need a long time to save up so many top-grade talismans. In the end, the transaction was not successful. The female cultivator was quite disappointed. Before she left the stage, she glanced at Lu Ping. This was because Lu Ping was the only one who exchanged a large number of talismans at the trade fair, even if they were only high-grade talismans. It wasn't that Lu Ping wasn't tempted. It was just that he had already attracted a lot of attention at the trade fair. If he were to trade for 2 more bottles of blood solidifying pellets, he would inevitably attract unwanted attention. Lu Ping pondered for a moment. After the trade fair ended, he did not hurry to leave. Instead, he waited until most of the people had left before he walked in the direction that the female cultivator left. Lu Ping's speed was slightly faster, and he soon caught up with the female cultivator. Seeing that there was no one around, he walked forward and said, "Senior Marshal Sister, please wait." The female cultivator turned around and saw that it was Lu Ping. She also guessed Lu Ping's purpose, but she still asked, "What do you want?" Lu Ping chuckled and said, "I think Senior Marshal Sister has already guessed it. I want to exchange for Senior Marshal Sister's blood solidifying pills." The female cultivator's face lit up when she heard this, and she eagerly asked, "How many top-grade talismans do you have?" Lu Ping did not directly answer, but said, "Senior Marshal Sister's 2 bottles of blood solidifying pills are worth around 170 to 80 spirit stones. Different top-grade talismans can be exchanged for 30 to 40 of them. However, I have been accumulating top-grade talismans for my own use, so I have turned them into blood talismans. In this case, I can only give Senior Marshal Sister 25 blood talismans." The female cultivator heard this, thought for a moment, and said, "25 talismans? That's barely enough. Let's do it." The 2 of them exchanged talismans and pills. The female cultivator looked at Lu Ping and said, "Junior Marshal Brother looks young, but I didn't expect your talisman-making skills to be so high. My name is Hu Lily. I don't know Senior Marshal Brother's name. If there is any need in the future, I will still need Junior Marshal Brother's help." Lu Ping smiled and said, "My name is Lu Ping. If Senior Marshal Sister has any need in the future, you can come to the courtyard's Group 7 to find me." Hu Lily suddenly smiled and said, "So you are the leader of the famous 7 Ferocious of the 3rd grade disciples. I have heard of your name for a long time." Lu Ping did not know that his name had already spread to the outer sect disciples. Hearing this, he smiled bitterly and said, "Senior Marshal Sister, please don't make fun of me. I was just lucky enough to win a few matches in the inner sect disciple competition. I am really ashamed of myself." Hu Lily looked at Lu Ping's embarrassed appearance and couldn't help but laugh. Soon, the other sects inadvertently regretfully said, "Jinling Sect Strength, Jinling Sect, and Xianling Xian Sect, in the Alliance, Sect, and Xianling Sect, and Jinling Xianzhang, Jinling Sect." Jinling Sect was in sect. Not long after, a senior immortal from a side hall casually lamented, "Who asked our sect to be so weak? We have no say in the Alliance, and will be bullied if we fall behind." After these words were spread, the disciples of Jinling Sect started to unite against a common enemy. Their hatred was directed towards the sects led by Xianling Sect. Their passion for cultivation increased by leaps and bounds, and their cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. In the past half a year, Group 7 had gained 4 7th-layer blood refining realm disciples and 2 8th-layer blood refining realm disciples. Shilingling had also advanced to the 9th layer, and Yao Yong and Du Feng were about to reach the peak of the 9th layer. Both of them had blood condensing pellets and were already preparing for the blood condensation realm. From Lu Ping's point of view, the commotion outside seemed to be an act arranged by both sides. While everyone thought that Jinling had failed in challenging Xianling Sect's authority in the North Sea Alliance, Lu Ping thought that Jinling had successfully shaken Xianling Sect's position in the alliance. Although Xianling Sect had forced Jinling to give in and accept the fact that they were going to fight for the island, Jinling's concession seemed to be a diplomatic victory for Xianling Sect. However, Xianling Sect's concession was on Xianling Sect's occupied island. Moreover, Xianling Sect did not gain much from this concession, especially since Xianqi Island, which had a small mineral vein, was excluded from the list of islands that Xianling was legally occupying. The other sects in the alliance were more than willing to see a balanced Xianling Sect, not a dominant sect. Sure enough, another month passed. Under the supervision of many sects in the North Sea Alliance, the results of the island fight were out. Out of the 14 battles, Xianling won 9 times. Including Xianqi Island, Xianling obtained 10 islands in this conflict. From Lu Ping's point of view, although the battles were small-scale, it also revealed a problem. Xianling's blood condensation cultivators were generally stronger than Xianling Sect's cultivators. Even though it was only a competition between a dozen or so people, it was impossible to not come to this conclusion. Perhaps this was also one of the reasons why Xianling dared to challenge Xianling Sect. Lu Ping finally came to his own conclusion from the dazzling battle between the two sides in the North Sea Alliance. However, it was just his own opinion. Lu Ping laughed at himself. These matters would naturally be handled by the sect's Laozu. Right now, breaking through to the next realm was more important. In the cultivation room, Lu Ping sat quietly with a blood vigor pill in his hand. Lu Ping had been at the peak of the 8th layer for more than a month. Although the 9th layer was right in front of him, Lu Ping still could not break through. Lu Ping decided to give it a try with the blood vigor pill. All this while, Lu Ping was reluctant to use a blood vigor pill to cultivate. Even though Lu Ping's cultivation was much higher than other cultivators in the same realm, using a blood vigor pill was still an unnecessary waste. This time, in order to break through to the 9th layer, he couldn't care less. Lu Ping placed the blood vigor pill in his mouth. The pill melted in his mouth, turning into a powerful surge of spiritual energy in his abdomen. Then, it was absorbed by his blood vessels. Complementing Lu Ping's continuous cultivation of the blood condensation spirit dissolving technique, the spiritual energy completely integrated into his blood vessels. His originally bright red blood instantly became a little brighter, and his heartbeat became slower but stronger. Under the dual effects of his heart and spiritual energy, the surging blood slowly expanded the blood vessels in his body. At the same time, many parts of his body that were not connected to his blood vessels were also unblocked. Under the influence of his blood, the rich spiritual energy penetrated into every part of his body, transforming it into a stronger physique. Some impurities that couldn't be removed from his body before were expelled out of his body. 9th layer blood refining realm. Lu Ping finally reached the blood condensation realm. He was only one step away from the blood condensation realm. Lu Ping looked at the Tianling mountain range where Xianling was stationed. It looks like I have to make a plan for myself and speed up my preparations for entering the blood condensation realm. Chapter 29. Lu Ping suppressed his joy after reaching the 9th layer and spent an entire month stabilizing his cultivation. With the help of the remaining 2 bottles of blood vigor pills, Lu Ping quickly stabilized his cultivation and made great progress. The 9th layer was an important transition period between the blood condensation realm and the blood refining realm. For mortals to become cultivators, they had to first activate their own spirit bloodline. According to legend, all living beings in this world were descendants of the 7th patriarch, the creator of the world. Every living being had 7 types of spirit bloodlines. Only by activating these 7 bloodlines could they absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and gradually strengthen their spirit bloodlines. This was the blood refining realm. When a cultivator reached the 9th layer, the 7 types of spirit bloodlines would be fully activated. At this point, the cultivator would have to face the blood condensation realm. The so-called blood condensation realm was to choose one of the 7 bloodlines in the body to cultivate and expel the spiritual energy of the other 6 bloodlines. Then, the cultivator would become the dominant bloodline in the body and reach the blood condensation realm. After that, the cultivator would use the spirit blood of the same bloodline to make up for the deficiencies in the bloodline. Finally, the cultivator's bloodline would be completely integrated into the spirit bloodline. This was the process of cultivating in the blood condensation realm. When Lu Ping reached the 9th layer, it meant that he had to choose one of the 7 bloodlines as his main bloodline in the blood condensation realm. It was also known as the Foundation Bloodline. Although Lu Ping hadn't made up his mind yet, it was better for him to increase his cultivation to the peak of the 9th layer and obtain the blood condensation pill first. On this day, after Lu Ping finished cultivating, he went to the market and sold all the talismans he made recently. Then, he bought 3 bottles of blood essence pills from Jinling's elixir store. The 80 to 80 spirit stones he earned from selling the talismans were gone in the blink of an eye, and he still had to fork out a few dozen spirit stones. After entering the 9th layer of the blood refining realm, the number of medicinal pellets required for cultivation had increased significantly. This was especially true for the blood solidifying pellets and blood vigor pellets that were of a higher grade than the blood essence pellets. Although the blood essence pellets cost less, they contained less spiritual energy, which greatly slowed down Lu Ping's cultivation speed. Even so, the monthly expenses of medicinal pills still rose sharply. If it wasn't for Lu Ping having some wealth and only relying on selling talismans, he would have to face the same situation as the vast majority of cultivators, facing a lack of cultivation resources. This was the result of Lu Ping's improved talisman crafting skills, especially after he purchased high-quality talisman papers from the trade fair. Thanks to that, Lu Ping rarely failed in drawing talismans after he entered the 9th layer. Alchemy was truly a lucrative industry. After returning to Jinling's side hall, Lu Ping received a notice to go to Master Immortal Lu to receive his mission for this year's training. When he arrived at Master Immortal Lu's cultivation room, Lu Ping realized that he wasn't the only one. The other 8 disciples of Group 7, who had reached the 8th layer, had also arrived. After everyone arrived and bowed to Master Immortal Lu, Master Immortal Lu said joyfully, "Lu Ping has reached the 9th layer of the blood refining realm. That's great. With this, our Group 7 now has 4 9th layer blood refining realm disciples. Our strength is no longer inferior to Group 1. Everyone was shocked to hear that Lu Ping's cultivation had improved so rapidly. Master Immortal Lu didn't elaborate on this and directly announced this year's training mission: stay on Xianqi Island for 3 years. For level 3 disciples of the side halls, they would have to carry out various missions assigned by the sect for the last 3 years. The conflict between Xianling's sect and Jinling's sect had calmed down, and Jinling had taken over Xianqi Island. Therefore, the 16 islands under Xianqi Island would need to be guarded by Jinling's blood-refining realm disciples. Since Group 7 had participated in the invasion of Xianqi Island, they were more familiar with this area of the sea. After leaving Master Immortal Lu's place, Lu Ping had a feeling that this mission would be full of twists and turns. Xianling's sect had suffered a huge loss and lost a smaller vein. Lu Ping didn't think that Xianling's sect would let Xianqi Island go so easily. He had to be prepared. After all, no one knew what could happen in the next 3 years. 3 days later, Lu Ping's group would depart for Xianqi Island. Lu Ping's time was tight. When he arrived at the market again, he first went to Jinling's crafting pavilion. Because of the missions he completed, Lu Ping now had 85 contribution points, enough for him to exchange for a mid-grade mystic instrument. The reason why he didn't exchange for one before was because the mystic instruments in the pavilion of smithing were relatively monotonous, unlike the variety in the market. Although the quality of the mystic instruments was guaranteed, they weren't particularly outstanding among the mystic instruments of the same grade. This time's mission was urgent, so Lu Ping didn't have time to go to other places in the market to exchange for magic tools. He could only come to the crafting pavilion to exchange for an ordinary mid-grade magic tool. A mid-grade magic tool would cost at least 50 contribution points. Those with better quality or special functions could even cost close to 100 contribution points. Lu Ping skimmed through the list. In the end, he felt that the most practical magic tool was still a flying sword. So, he spent 65 contribution points to exchange for a flying feather sword. Looking at Lu Ping's remaining 20 contribution points, he shook his head. It was really expensive. However, when he thought about how this magic tool would sell for at least 200 spirit stones outside, Lu Ping still felt that he made a profit. When Lu Ping passed by Jinling's elixir store, he thought for a moment and decided to go in to take a look. The elixirs in the elixir store were mainly targeted at blood-refining realm disciples and low-level blood condensation realm cultivators. Lu Ping looked at the list of elixirs and saw that only the blood essence pill was suitable for him. Disappointed, he decided to leave. When the shop assistant saw that Lu Ping was about to leave, he casually asked, "Immortal Senior, are there no elixirs that are suitable for you?" Lu Ping was about to leave, but when he heard the shop assistant's question, he said, "I just want to exchange for some elixirs that are more suitable for 9th layer blood refining realm than the blood essence pill, but I don't need them here." The shop assistant smiled and said, "It's not that we don't have these things. Our shop owner has some connections. Because the supply is limited, he sells them to cultivators with connections or powerful forces. Ordinary cultivators can only exchange for the elixirs designated by the sect." Lu Ping suddenly understood. Jinling was a big business. How could they not refine these elixirs? Although these elixirs were better than the blood essence pill, they were still just elixirs for blood refining realm cultivators. How could a master alchemist like Jinling care about them? However, Jinling was also looking for benefits. Compared to other blood refining realm elixirs, the blood essence pill was undoubtedly the most suitable elixir. When Lu Ping saw the half-smile on the shop assistant's face, he quickly understood. He passed 10 spirit stones to the shop assistant and smiled apologetically. "This humble one doesn't know anything about this. Please enlighten me." The shop assistant accepted the spirit stones generously and passed the list of elixirs to Lu Ping. It seemed like he had prepared everything beforehand. Chapter 30. Sure enough, Lu Ping saw some high-grade medicinal pellets for the various stages of the blood refining realm, and one of them was the blood solidifying pellet. Overjoyed, Lu Ping quickly asked the shop assistant, "Little brother, how much are these blood solidifying pellets?" The shop assistant took a look and said, "Each blood solidifying pill costs 4 contribution points. I can give you a discount of 35 contribution points for a bottle of 10. Hearing this, Lu Ping couldn't help but say, "That's a bit expensive. For contribution points can be exchanged for 12 spirit stones. The supplementary effect of the blood solidifying pill is only twice that of the blood essence pill. A blood essence pill is only about 4 spirit stones in the market." The shop assistant waved his hands and put on a helpless expression as he said, "Immortal Elder, the rarer an item is, the more valuable it is. We sell it in bottles here. Moreover, we have to guard against the sect's investigation and bribe everyone. All of this requires spirit stones." Lu Ping looked at the half-smile on the shop assistant's face. Although there was a hint of truth in the shop assistant's words, most of them were exaggerated. Perhaps this was a method of earning money that was tacitly approved by the sect. However, he had no choice but to lower his head. Looking at his remaining 20 contribution points, Lu Ping thought for a moment. He took out a jade box from his storage bag and handed it to the shop assistant. "Take a look and see how many contribution points this empty verdant grass can be exchanged for." This spirit herb was Lu Ping's harvest on Xianqi Island. Lu Ping only knew that this empty verdant grass was a spirit herb used to concoct blood condensation realm pills. However, he didn't know what kind of pill it was used to concoct. The jade slip master Immortal Lu gave him didn't explain. The shop assistant opened the jade box and looked at the spirit herb inside with an artifact connected to a jade slip on the counter. This artifact was a small device for mortals to read the contents of a jade slip. After a careful examination, the shop assistant said, "It really is a 500-year-old empty verdant grass. This is a spirit herb used to concoct blood condensation realm pills. According to the sect's exchange rate, it can be exchanged for 15 contribution points, Immortal Master." Adding the 20 contribution points from before, it was exactly the price of a bottle of blood solidifying pill. An idea occurred to Lu Ping. If it's a spirit herb used to concoct blood condensation pill, how many spirit stones can it be exchanged for? The attendant's eyes lit up. "Immortal Elder, do you have spirit herbs to refine the blood condensing pill? That stock can be exchanged for 35 contribution points. Furthermore, the sect is open to purchase them. We'll take in as many as we can. If there are more than 4 stocks, we can even add 5 contribution points to each stock." Pavilion Master Su was also stunned. "I do." He pondered for a moment and said, "It's a little difficult, but seeing that little brother has been buying for a long time in the quantity, I'll try to help you. I'll supply you with 1 bottle every month, but I'll have to reduce the number of blood-solidifying pills by 1 bottle every month. Lu Ping was overjoyed when he heard that there were blood-solidifying pills. He quickly expressed his gratitude. Pavilion Master Su was also happy that he had made a big deal. He said, 1 bottle of blood-solidifying pills can be exchanged with contribution points. 1 bottle of blood-solidifying pills will cost 180 spirit stones, so 3 bottles of blood-solidifying pills will cost 540 spirit stones. In addition, 3 bottles of blood-solidifying pills will cost 330 spirit stones. That's a total of 860 spirit stones. Little brother, just give me 850 spirit stones. After Lu Ping thanked him, the shop assistant was very efficient. In a short moment, 3 bottles of blood-solidifying pills and 3 bottles of blood-solidifying pills were handed over. After Lu Ping paid the spirit stones, he looked at the jade slips and magic tools that the shop assistant used to identify spirit herbs. He said, Junior might have some harvests when I go out to train. However, Junior is still young and inexperienced. There are many spirit herbs that I don't know. I wonder if Junior can make a copy of little brother's jade slips? Junior is willing to exchange them with spirit stones. Pavilion Master Su laughed and said, the jade slips our sect prepared for blood-refining realm disciples are indeed a little crude. However, it also stimulates the disciples' desire to explore and use their own strength to make up for the lack of knowledge. It's just a small matter, so little brother only needs to make a copy of it. As for the spirit herbs you harvest, remember to come to our pavilion to exchange them for contribution points. We will definitely give little brother a fair price. Lu Ping repeatedly said. Of course, only then did he leave the pill store. Watching Lu Ping walking away, the shop assistant said in a low voice, Sixth Grandpa, our supply of medicinal pellets will be greatly reduced. It will be very difficult to make up for it in a short period of time. What will we do if those cultivators who made reservations ask us about it? Pavilion Master Su didn't mind the shop assistant's words. He said, they wouldn't dare. A bunch of rogue cultivators only have a few dozen spirit stones to spend every month. Buying 3 to 5 medicinal pellets is enough to make their hearts ache. They even haggle endlessly over the price. How can it be as comfortable as making such a large transaction? The shop assistant thought of those aloof cultivators who, for the sake of a few spirit stones, would negotiate with a mortal like him for a long time. Often, they would even use soft words to beg. He couldn't help but shiver. Pavilion Master Su took out a list of names and casually pointed at a few names. He said to the shop assistant, the next time these people come, tell them that the sect's alchemist's cauldron exploded. The supply of medicinal pellets will be suspended for a period of time. If they don't agree, just throw them out the door. Ever since the small spirit mine was discovered on Xianqi Island in the battle with Xianling sect, enlightened Master Chu had been guarding Xianqi Island. Now, with the arrival of a core forging enlightened master, the island had undergone a huge transformation. Other than enlightened Master Chu, there were still 7 blood condensation realm cultivators on the island, including Master Immortal Lu who had just arrived. The atmosphere on the island was still very intense. It seemed like Xianling sect still couldn't forget about Xianqi Island. However, because of the agreement between the two sects, Xianling sect could only carry out some annoying harassment activities. Since there were so many blood condensation cultivators on the island, it seemed like he was going to be stationed on the island. Sure enough, the next day, enlightened Master Chu's disciples announced their arrangements to the 20 cultivators. Other than the 4 female disciples, the rest were to be stationed on Xianqi Island. Lu Ping's luck wasn't too good. He was assigned to Huangli Island, which he had been to before. This was an island that only had one resource, spirit grains. Among the 16 islands, it was one of the poorest islands. A few of his fellow disciples came over and joked about Lu Ping's bad character. Lu Ping could only say a few self-deprecating words, which made the others feel closer to each other. When the 16 of them were about to set off, enlightened Master Chu personally appeared and warned them to focus on cultivating and managing the island. At the same time, they had to be careful of Xianling sect's harassment and report to Xianqi Island's Master Immortal if anything happened. Before they left, Second Senior Du Feng walked up to Lu Ping and said softly, Lin Sheng is Li Cheng's cousin. That's why you're going to Huangyu Island. Lu Ping was taken aback. He looked at Yao Yong and Shi Lingling, who were standing not far away. Both of them were also looking at him, and when they saw him looking over, they nodded. It seemed like the three of them were here to warn Lu Ping. Lu Ping thanked him gratefully and turned to leave. At the same time, he discreetly glanced at Lin Sheng, who was chatting with a few side hall disciples in the distance. Then, he placed the small boat mystic instrument on the sea and flew towards Huangyu Island. Looking at Lu Ping's disappearing figure, Lin Sheng turned his head with a complicated expression. Lu Ping's cultivation speed was too fast. It had only been 2 years since the competition and he had already broken through to the 9th layer. If it weren't for his cousin Li Cheng constantly asking him to teach him a lesson, Lin Sheng wouldn't have wanted to provoke such a person. Fortunately, he had obtained a blood condensation pill during the competition. In these 2 years, he had almost reached the peak of the 9th layer of blood refining realm. Once he broke through to the blood condensation realm, this Lu Ping would be a piece of cake for him. Lin Sheng had spent a lot of spirit stones this time. He had also asked the elders of his family to help him guard Huangyu Island. There was a mini spirit mine there that could produce 50 to 60 spirit stones a day. 20% of the mine's income would be close to 300 spirit stones a month. On top of that, he would receive 50 spirit stones a month from the sect and the support of his family. He would definitely be able to break through to the blood condensation realm in a short time. Actually, Lu Ping was a little depressed. Anyone would feel bad after being schemed against, even though Lu Ping had no intention of going to a better place. Lu Ping had long known that disciples would definitely bribe the immortals in charge of the missions in order to get a better job. It wasn't that Lu Ping didn't understand, it was just that he didn't want to. With his wealth, he could definitely get a good island to guard with just a few hundred spirit stones. However, Lu Ping had always had a subconscious self-concealment. He didn't want others to know more about him. Lu Ping had always wanted to keep a low profile, but Lin Sheng's actions had actually helped Lu Ping achieve his goal. Lu Ping, who was relieved, remembered that the immortal assigned Lin Sheng to Huangyu Island. Although Huangyu Island and Huangli Island were quite far apart, this was mainly because Lu Ping's Huangli Island was too remote. Compared to other islands, these two islands were the closest. Thinking about the mini spirit stone mine on Huangyu Island, Lu Ping felt an itch in his heart. Why don't I be honest for once? I'm just returning the favor, not doing something that goes against my heart. In terms of understanding of Xianqi Island Sea region, even enlightened Master Chu might not be as familiar as him. Just as Lu Ping was thinking about how to scheme for the spirit stone mine on Huangyu Island, an island in the distance appeared before Lu Ping's eyes. This would be the place where he would work, live, and fight for the next 3 years. From now on, he was the island lord of Huangli Island. Chapter 32. Huangli Island was actually a very large miniature island. Although islands with a radius of about 10 miles were generally called miniature islands, the term around was not accurate. Huangli Island was one such island. It was about 20 miles in radius, with a slightly higher hill in the middle. On top of the hill was a lush forest. 2 small rivers flowed from the forest, one in the northeast and the other in the southeast, into the sea. Around the hill was relatively flat land. The soil here was fertile, and it was a food-growing area for mortals on the island. Especially on the east side of the island, the land between the 2 rivers was the smoothest. Because of the abundant water source, there was a large amount of farmland here. The population on the west side of the island was relatively small, and there weren't many farmlands either. However, there were many fruit trees here. There was also a natural harbor here, where the fishermen anchored their fishing boats. The islanders even chopped wood here, transported it down the hill, and made it into fishing boats. Every year, the harvest was quite good. Lu Ping's arrival was only notified to the islanders' leaders, and he settled down at the place where the Xianling disciples were stationed. When the islanders heard that Master Immortal Lu, who helped them fend off the sea beast and saved many fishermen, had become the island's resident immortal, they were very happy. They thought that Master Immortal Lu was not as arrogant as the other elders, and that he was kind-hearted to help the islanders. On the same day, many islanders made gifts from their families, filling up the place where Lu Ping lived. This touched Lu Ping greatly. The islanders' simplicity and kindness made Lu Ping determined to do something for them in the next 3 years. After settling down, Lu Ping cultivated and did his routine patrols every day. He also started to manage his small base for the next 3 years. Lu Ping first checked the spiritual fields on the island. The 5 acres of spiritual fields were divided into 7 areas on the island. The spiritual fields were in good condition, and the scattered spiritual veins underground were also stable. It was clear that the Xianling disciples had taken good care of the spiritual fields. After all, the spiritual fields were the only cultivation resource on the island. Spiritual grains were the main food for blood refining and blood condensation cultivators who didn't abstain from eating. The spiritual energy contained in the grains was helpful in cultivating and transforming the body, especially this kind of daily food. The effects were subtle. Lu Ping used the spirit-urging art on the seeds of the spiritual grains he bought, planted them in the spiritual fields, and covered them with a thin layer of soil. Then, he took out a jade bottle and floated it above the spirit field. Lu Ping made a hand seal, and the jade bottle sprayed out a misty water mist, which just happened to envelop the spirit field. It was as if there was a drizzle in the spirit field. After being nourished by the diluted spirit spring water, the spirit field immediately felt full of vitality. This jade bottle was really a good item. This low-level artifact was obtained by Lu Ping from killing the cultivators of the cultivator-sharing union in the forest in the side courtyard. Although it had some defensive and offensive functions, Lu Ping discovered that this artifact was actually a container with a spatial attribute. Its biggest advantage was that it could store large amounts of spiritual liquid inside and prevent the spiritual qi from dissipating. The diluted spirit spring water Lu Ping stored in the jade bottle was just enough to irrigate 5 mu of the spirit field. This saved Lu Ping from wasting his arcane energy to cast spells like the art of gathering clouds and transforming rain. Lu Ping clapped his hands in satisfaction and ordered the nearby islanders to help take care of the spirit field. The spiritual qi contained in the spirit fields had been enhanced by the mist of the spirit spring water, so the mortals would be able to take care of the fields regularly. Their bodies would become healthier and less sick. Amidst the gratitude of the mortals, Lu Ping finished planting the spiritual grains. The second thing Lu Ping did was to set up 4 sets of top-grade mother-child warning talismans several hundred zhang around his cultivation area. They were used to monitor the safety of the island and ensure that he had a comfortable cultivation environment. It would be great if he had a formation. Unfortunately, he hadn't reached the blood condensation realm yet. Without cultivating his divine sense, even if he set up a formation, he wouldn't be able to use it. Even if he forced himself to use it, there wouldn't be much effect. Moreover, a set of formation required a large amount of spirit stones. The amount of spirit stones Lu Ping had wouldn't be enough. The third thing was to release the spirit-seeking mouse that had recognized its master. It would run all over Huangli Island, hoping that it would be able to find some spiritual land and use it to open up a spiritual field. Of course, it would be even better if it could find other situations. After doing these 3 things, Lu Ping's life became regular. Every day, he would have a fixed time to cultivate, then he would patrol and manage the spirit field. The rest of the time, he would either refine talismans or follow the fishermen out to the sea. When he was in the mood, he would hunt a few sea beasts to satisfy his cravings. However, most of the time, it was to increase the fishermen's catch. Moreover, with Lu Ping following them, their safety was guaranteed. This made the fishermen very grateful, and they would often send the islanders' delicacies to Lu Ping. Lu Ping hadn't abstained from eating. Even if he did, Lu Ping wouldn't skip meals. Delicious food was a form of enjoyment. How could he give up on it? Eating spirit grains every day was too monotonous. Unfortunately, the sea beasts weren't the sea demon beasts and didn't know how to cultivate. Otherwise, he could earn some extra income. The sea demon beasts were just sea beasts that knew how to refine their blood but didn't have intelligence. Only when they reached the blood condensation realm and gained intelligence could they be considered as part of the demon race. Only then could they be considered as a race similar to humans. The peaceful days always flew by quickly. 3 months had passed by quickly. The spirit-seeking mouse had almost searched every corner of the island, but it didn't find any place where spirit energy gathered. This made Lu Ping a little disappointed. The feeling of sitting around and eating away everything was not good. It gave Lu Ping a sense of crisis. The only thing that made Lu Ping feel gratified was that his cultivation didn't slow down even though he was far away from the spirit vein. Perhaps it was because of the free and unfettered life in this period of time that Lu Ping's mind was calm and peaceful. With a sufficient supply of medicinal pellets, Lu Ping's cultivation steadily increased. When the day of harvest arrived, Lu Ping's mood finally improved a little. The 20 spirit stones worth of good seeds really lived up to its name. Moreover, under the careful irrigation of Lu Ping's spirit spring water, the output of the spirit grains had reached 130 caddies per mu. Since the Jinling only collected a fixed amount of spirit grains regardless of the harvest, other than the fixed 400 caddies of spirit grains, the remaining 100 caddies of bonus and 150 caddies of extra harvest were Lu Ping's private property. In any case, it was still more than 80 spirit stones. In addition to the 60 spirit stones monthly subsidy and all the high, middle, and low-grade charms that he drew in the past 3 months, he would still be able to earn more than 200 spirit stones after selling them. In this way, he only earned 450 spirit stones in 3 months. In the eyes of other cultivators of the same level, this was already very good. However, when Lu Ping thought about the 3 months he spent on medicinal pellets, he used up 3 bottles of blood solidifying pills and 3 bottles of blood vigor pills. He also needed to add on 3 bottles of blood essence pills to make up for the 2 types of medicinal pellets. In total, he spent almost 1,000 spirit stones, and this didn't include the miscellaneous items that he normally spent on cultivation. Just thinking about it made Lu Ping's head hurt. Spirit stones, he must find a way to get spirit stones. At this time, Lu Ping didn't care about how he expressed his desire for spirit stones. Chapter 33. Lu Ping waited for his replacement cultivator to return to Xianqi Island. He handed over 400 caddies of spirit grains and reported the situation on Huangli Island to a blood condensation realm Master Immortal. That was all. Afterwards, he paid a visit to Master Immortal Lu and asked him some questions about cultivation. Master Immortal Lu answered every question in detail, no matter how big or small, which made Lu Ping very grateful. Master Immortal Lu was a very decent person. He was fair to all his disciples. As long as they worked hard and made progress, he would give them unexpected rewards. Even though the rewards were small, it was enough to surprise them. He knew when to provide the most appropriate help. Lu Ping was able to become the 3rd strongest disciple in Group 7 because of Master Immortal Lu's secret protection. Otherwise, how could an orphan like Lu Ping be able to suppress Li Cheng, who came from a cultivator family? After that, Lu Ping told the other returning martial brothers of Group 7 about what had happened in the past 3 months. After that, they all received the sex subsidies. For example, Lu Ping received 180 spirit stones for 3 months and 20 caddies of spirit grain seeds. Of course, Lu Ping wouldn't use them, but he couldn't let them go to waste either. It would be a waste if he didn't take them. Just like that, 1/3 of the 3-day holiday was over. On the 2nd day, everyone teleported to the nearest mid-sized island, Kurin Island, to buy cultivation supplies. Lu Ping could only spend more spirit stones to teleport back to True Soul Side Hall to buy pills. Fortunately, there were still a few people who needed to go back to True Soul Side Hall to deal with some matters. Everyone shared the cost, so they didn't have much spirit stones left. After buying pills, spirit spring water, talisman paper, spirit ink, and various talismans, they hurried back to Xianqi Island and rested for a night. On the 3rd day, everyone said their goodbyes and returned to their respective islands. As soon as they returned, the spirit-seeking mouse, Debeo, came out of nowhere and crawled up his pants to his hand. It then squeaked as if it had done something important. Lu Ping's face lit up. He took out a spirit beast pill made from spirit grains from his spirit beast pouch and rewarded it to Debeo. Then he said, "Did Debeo find a spirit gathering place? Bring me there to have a look." After Debeo had finished swallowing the medicine, his small head nodded up and down extremely quickly. Then, like a wisp of smoke. He jumped down from Lu Ping's hand and ran outside. Lu Ping followed Debeo towards the east side of Huangli Island. Lu Ping couldn't help but feel a little strange. Most of the spiritual fields on the island were located at the bottom of the small hill on the island. Moreover, there were 5 spiritual fields in the mountain forest on the west side of the island. The east side had been developed much earlier. If there were spiritual fields, they would have discovered it long ago. When he arrived at his destination, Lu Ping finally understood what was going on. It was precisely because the east was developed early that irrigation was convenient. Most of the paddy fields had a higher yield, so it was muddy all year round. In the past, the master immortals stationed on the island had a preconceived notion that this place was the first to be developed and had already been surveyed by others. Secondly, the master immortals really couldn't put down their pride to come to this kind of muddy pond. Thus, this spirit-gathering place became dark under the lamp. Lu Ping carefully examined this spirit-gathering place. He discovered that this place could be developed into a spiritual field that was about 1 mu in size. According to the usual practice, this spiritual field didn't need to be reported before his 3-year mission ended. In other words, before he left, this 1 mu of spiritual field would be his private spiritual field. Overjoyed, Lu Ping took out a leftover blood enhancement pill from his storage pouch. This was a type of pill suitable for 4th or 5th layer blood refining realm cultivators. He tossed it to Debeo. Debeo didn't have any spiritual intelligence at all. Seeing that it was a gift from its master, it grabbed the pill and bit it. When Lu Ping reacted, he only managed to snatch half of the pill from Debeo's mouth. After swallowing the other half, Debeo splashed into the muddy pond and fainted. Putting Debeo's tragic experience aside, Lu Ping suddenly felt that there was finally a little surprise in his life. Therefore, he happily turned this 1 mu of cement pond into a spiritual field. Together with the previous 5 mu of spiritual field, he planted the spiritual grains. Life seemed to have returned to the same old routine for the past 3 months. Lu Ping, who was originally immersed in cultivation, suddenly thought of something. He thought of Lin Sheng on Huangyu Island. Lu Ping fell into Lin Sheng's trap and came to Huangli Island to plant spiritual grains. Meanwhile, he hired people to dig for spiritual stones on Huangyu Island. He didn't even need to lift a finger to get 300 spiritual stones every month. Lu Ping had a detailed map of this sea area. Moreover, he had personally killed people on Huangyu Island to seize the island. Naturally, he knew the area very well. When he returned to Xinqi Island, he secretly heard from his fellow disciples that the spiritual stones on Huangyu Island were delivered to him every 10 days. Perhaps it was because Xinling's sect wanted to keep the secret of the spiritual stone mine. But Xinling didn't need to keep it a secret. Moreover, he had a core forging expert on his side. Naturally, he didn't need to worry. It was almost the end of the month, and it was a cloudy day. Lu Ping exclaimed in his heart, "Even the heavens are helping me." Chapter 34. Lin Sheng's angry roar made him dizzy. The purpose of the descending spirit powder was to isolate the connection between the cultivator and the spiritual energy, and to temporarily weaken the bloodline power in the body, reducing the cultivator's arcane energy. Of course, this despicable method was only effective against blood-refining realm cultivators. Unfortunately, Lin Sheng was in this category. A black flying dagger pierced through the fine curtain of rain, like a ghost in the darkness, aiming for Lin Sheng's chest. Lin Sheng shouted, and a mid-grade flying sword knocked the flying dagger far away. When Lin Sheng's flying sword and the flying dagger collided, another flying sword followed closely behind, aiming for Lin Sheng's neck. Lin Sheng grunted, and a handkerchief suddenly unfolded, wrapping around the flying sword, and carried it in another direction. It was another mid-grade mystic instrument. The 2 mid-grade mystic instruments were on the verge of collapsing, and suddenly, a gust of cold wind hit the back of Lin Sheng's head. Unable to react in time, Lin Sheng finally fainted on the ground. Before he fainted, his only thought was to control 3 mystic instruments at the same time. This person's cultivation must be at the peak of 9th layer blood refining realm. What he didn't know was that Lu Ping was actually controlling a fourth mystic instrument. The jade bottle kept spewing descending spirit powder in the air, and at the same time, Lu Ping was also controlling the breeze spell, blowing it slowly at him. Lu Ping suppressed the excitement in his heart and expressionlessly cast an illusion technique on his face. He slowly walked forward, took Lin Shang's storage bag and the bag of spirit stones, and then took the jade bottle. He poured a few mouthfuls of the descending spirit powder into Lin Shang's mouth. This way, Lin Shang would only wake up after noon tomorrow, and he would only be able to fully recover his strength the day after tomorrow. Lu Ping didn't even bother looking at the two interspatial pouches. He simply stuffed the contents into his own interspatial pouch and destroyed the two interspatial pouches. When Lu Ping arrived at the mine, he saw a few miners already waiting at the entrance. Without saying a word, he threatened them to take all the spirit stones they had mined in the past 10 days. Then, he looked around the rest of the island and took all the spirit grains from the only 2 or 3 spirit fields, which added up to about 1 mu. He also found a low-grade spirit gathering praying mat in Lin Shang's cultivation room. This was a good item. It was actually a type of formation disc. Cultivating for a long time would help to gather and absorb spirit energy and speed up cultivation. He wouldn't even trade a high-grade Dharma artifact for this praying mat. Lu Ping thought to himself that he was indeed a rich man, but his face became calmer and calmer as he thought about what he had missed out. After leaving Huangyu Island, Lu Ping quickly steered the small boat towards the southwest direction. After traveling for about 100 miles, he turned east and headed towards his own Huangli Island. Before he turned around, Lu Ping suddenly remembered something. He took off his Xianling sect disciple clothes and burned them with a fire. Then, he jumped into the sea and washed himself thoroughly. Then, he put all the items in his storage bag except for the spirit stones into another storage bag and hid it in a submerged reef. After making a mark, he hurried back to Huangli Island. Then, as if nothing had happened, he continued to live his regular rural life. Just like that, 7 days passed. On this day, Lu Ping finally saw the Master Immortal who came to investigate. The Master Immortal who came to Huangli Island was Master Immortal Shang, the one who assigned tasks to Lu Ping and the rest. Lu Ping hurried forward to greet Master Immortal Shang and asked, "Master Immortal, what orders do you have for me?" Master Immortal Shang looked at Lu Ping's calm and curious expression. It didn't seem fake, but he still asked sternly, "Where did you go 7 days ago?" Lu Ping was startled and hurriedly replied in a flustered manner, "7 days ago? I've been on the island all this time. This. Master Immortal Shang, did I do something wrong?" Master Immortal Shang looked at Lu Ping's fearful expression and pretended to calm down. "Very good. These days, Xianling sect's harassment has become more frequent. Did you find anything here?" Lu Ping shook his head and said, "No, it's been peaceful here all this time. I didn't find anything." Master Immortal Shang tried a few more times, but didn't find anything. Finally, he let go of his suspicions and said, "Do you know Lin Shang from Huangyu Island? 7 days ago, he was knocked unconscious by a Xianling sect disciple, and everything on him was taken away. What a disgrace." This time, Immortal Master Shang was truly enraged. The Lin family could be considered to be on friendly terms with him. This time, he had taken care of Lin Shang and assigned him to the most profitable island. Yet, he had made such a huge mistake. His entire Lin family had become a laughing stock, and he himself had lost all face. He didn't even know that the descending spirit powder had been blown into his mouth. Why didn't he just die? At least this way, he could still stimulate his Zhenling bloodthirst. Master Immortal Shang thought about how the Lin clan's blood condensation expert had invited him to track down the murderer. However, the rain had covered up too many traces, and it was already 6 days after the incident. In the end, he had chased in the direction of Xianling sect for tens of miles, but there were still no clues. Forget it. I'll stay away from the Lin clan in the future, lest I become a laughing stock. Master Immortal Shang gritted his teeth at the thought of the strange atmosphere on Xianqi Island these few days. Only spiritual Master Chu didn't have any scruples. After knowing what had happened, he laughed for the time it took to drink a cup of tea. His laughter could be heard from tens of miles around Xianqi Island. Lu Ping didn't know that Master Immortal Shang had gone through so many thoughts in that split second. He was dumbfounded and said, Rob? Master Immortal Shang looked at the funny expression on Lu Ping's face and felt even more embarrassed. Indeed, 10 out of 10 cases would be treated as murder, but the other party only cared about robbing. That kid might as well be dead. In the end, Master Immortal Shang only gave a few random instructions to be careful of Xianling's sect and left quickly. Lu Ping felt that the warning talisman in his sleeve had lost its ability to sense Master Immortal Shang. Finally, he couldn't hold back his laughter anymore. Although Lu Ping didn't have Spiritual Master Chu's aura, it still baffled the islanders who lived nearby. Another 3-month vacation was over. When Lu Ping returned to Xinchi Island, he found out that after he knocked Lin Sheng out, Lin Sheng only woke up the next day and recovered his arcane energy on the 3rd day. However, the worst part was that Lu Ping had robbed him so thoroughly that he didn't even leave behind a single spirit stone. Lin Sheng didn't have the arcane energy of a 9th-layer blood refining realm cultivator, but he didn't have any artifacts or talismans for him to fly across. Although he had the ability to float on water, Huangyu Island was more than 200 miles away from Xinchi Island. Floating on water could be used to cross a river, but crossing the sea was a joke. Anxious to report to Xinchi Island, Lin Sheng had no choice but to order the fishermen on the island to take him to Xinchi Island. As the saying goes, when the boat is broken, the wolf will appear. It was a stormy season, and the fishing boat lost its way in the dark of the night. It drifted on the sea for 4 days until Xinchi Island had not received the tribute from Huangyu Island. Only then did they realize that something had happened. When the blood condensation realm master Immortal returned, another day had passed. He brought back Lin Sheng, who had been drifting on the sea for 4 days, and a funny story. What happened next was just as Lu Ping had guessed. In the end, Lin Sheng became the laughingstock of Xinchi Island. After that, the Lin family was furious. They sent a blood condensation realm expert to invite Master Immortal Shang to track down the culprit, but to no avail. In the end, they blamed the matter on Xianling's sect. Chapter 35. After replenishing his cultivation supplies for the next 3 months, Lu Ping heard from Shilingling that Dikuan Island's market was going to hold an auction for blood-refining realm disciples in half a year's time. He decided to go and have a look at what he didn't need. His cultivation schedule had been too tight recently, so it was time to take a look at what he got from Lin Sheng. About 100 miles southwest of Huangyu Island, on the reefs of the sea, a magic artifact that looked like a carriage flew over from afar. When the carriage stopped, 4 cultivators wearing Xianling sect's disciple robes jumped out. One of them, who seemed to be in his mid-20s, said, "We can't go any further north. If we go any further, we'll be in Zhenling's territory." The youngest of the 4, a boy around 16 or 17 years old, asked, "Senior Marshal Brother Qiao, has Zhenling gone mad? He just took over our Xinchi Island, and recently, he's been going overboard. Blood condensation realm cultivators are constantly appearing in our waters. Are they planning to invade our island?" A female cultivator beside Senior Marshal Brother Qiao giggled and said, "Junior Marshal Brother Zhou, Zhenling was only able to take over Xinchi Island because he was lucky. Otherwise, with our Xianling sect's #1 strength in the Northern Sea, why would we be afraid of Zhenling? Besides, we have thousands of islands, so what if we lose one? Just treat it as a reward to Zhenling." Senior Marshal Brother Qiao glanced at the female cultivator beside him and said, "We can't be careless. This time, we were sent to patrol the sea. Although we didn't understand Zhenling's recent movements, we accidentally discovered 3 Zhenling cultivators wandering around the nearby waters. They seemed to be looking for something." Just as Senior Marshal Brother Qiao finished speaking, a streak of light flew over from the direction of Huangli Island. A short cultivator landed beside the 4 of them. When Senior Marshal Brother Qiao saw Junior Marshal Brother Minor Repairs, he quickly asked, "Junior Marshal Brother Ian, did you find out what those 3 are doing?" Junior Marshal Brother Ian nodded his head and said, "They should have found a cultivator's cave." The 3 of them stopped at an island 50 kilometers south of Huangli Island. They haven't found the exact location of the cave yet, but the 3 of them should have run out of supplies and will return to Zhenling to replenish their supplies. They agreed to explore in 3 days. Senior Brother Chow asked again. How are their cultivations? Junior Martial Brother Ian said, 2 9th-layer blood refining realm cultivators and 1 8th-layer blood refining realm cultivator. All 3 of them have mystic artifacts. Let's do it. The only cultivator behind Senior Martial Brother Chow, who hadn't spoken yet, fiercely said. Senior Martial Brother Chow pondered for a moment and agreed. Among the 5 of us, 4 of us have reached the 9th-layer blood refining realm, and we all have mystic instruments with us. It shouldn't be a problem for us to take down the 3 of them. The cultivator behind Senior Martial Brother Chow continued. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Let them help us find the cave abode before we make our move. The female cultivator also added. The day after tomorrow, we'll have to set up an ambush on the reef. Finally, Senior Martial Brother Chow said, let's end the battle quickly. That place is not far from Huangli Island, and it'll be troublesome if we attract the cultivators stationed there. After discussing their plan, the group returned to the carriage and flew towards Xianling sect. Not long after the 5 of them left, a splash suddenly appeared on a reef, and Lu Ping flew up from it. Initially, Lu Ping was here to retrieve the storage bag containing Lin Sheng's belongings, but he didn't expect to run into Xianling sect's disciples plotting against his own. He didn't expect that there would be such a treasure in the area under his jurisdiction. No matter what, he had to get a share of the loot. Lu Ping looked at the invisibility talisman and spirit sealing talisman he had used to hide himself. He gritted his teeth and flew towards Huangli Island, counting his spoils first. After Lu Ping flew away, a giant snake's head suddenly rose from the calm sea, looking in the direction Lu Ping flew to. The snake's forked tongue flickered in and out of its mouth like a sword, as if it was trying to identify the scent of Xianling sect disciples and Lu Ping. A moment later, the giant snake's head slowly sank into the sea, disappearing without a trace. It seemed like Xianling and the Lin family had not only alerted Xianling sect, but also alerted the sea demons because of Lin Sheng. The culprit of all this, Lu Ping, still had no idea that he had become someone else's oriole. At this moment, Lu Ping couldn't wait to count Lin Sheng's belongings. Lu Ping's excitement didn't diminish even after 2 months of cold storage. Looking at the pile of items in the cultivation room, Lu Ping was in a good mood. The 2 mid-grade mystic instruments that Lin Sheng used to fight Lu Ping, a flying sword and a handkerchief, were naturally in Lu Ping's pocket. There was also a mid-grade flying sword that was specially used for flying. This flying sword was a flying mystic instrument and didn't have any attack power. There were also 2 low-grade mystic instruments, one for offense and one for defense. They should be Lin Sheng's backup mystic instruments, so Lu Ping naturally didn't want them. Lin Sheng used 6 bottles of blood solidifying pills for cultivation. Lu Ping was pleasantly surprised and envious. Lin Sheng was indeed a descendant of an aristocratic family. Moreover, Lin Sheng was the Lin family's genius. Not only did he have enough elixirs for cultivation, but the quality was also very high. Lu Ping was worried that he would have to use blood essence pills for cultivation for 1 month out of every 3 months. Now, for the rest of the year, he could use blood solidifying pills and blood vigor pills for cultivation. There were also some elixirs that could restore magic power and heal various injuries. They were also of high quality. It could be seen that the Lin family had invested a lot in Lin Sheng. The spirit stone mine produced 1,300 to 400 spirit stones a month. Lin Sheng himself had 500 spirit stones on him, so he had saved up for 2 months of cultivation expenses. Although the harvest was huge, the blood-condensing pills and the spirit herbs needed to concoct blood-condensing pills that Lu Ping had hoped to obtain were not available. Lu Ping also knew that there wasn't much hope, but he had been hoping for the slightest chance. Even though Lin Sheng had obtained the blood-condensing pill as a reward in the competition, this reward was usually controlled by the leading immortal. It would only be given out when a disciple was preparing to break through. This was to prevent others from coveting it. As far as Lu Ping knew, Yao Yong and Du Feng, who had obtained the blood-condensing pills, had asked Master Immortal Lu and the others to look after them. Lu Ping didn't care about the other miscellaneous items. Only 2 jade scrolls piqued Lu Ping's interest. One of the jade scrolls was called Alchemy Basics. It explained the basic knowledge of alchemy. Ever since Lu Ping had been troubled by the problem of cultivating elixirs, he had thought of learning alchemy on his own more than once. That way, he wouldn't have to be controlled by others. However, Jinling's requirements for alchemists were strict. Alchemists were also very careful about their own confidentiality. The art of alchemy itself was a huge and rigorous system. In addition, alchemists had to waste a lot of cultivation resources to improve their alchemy skills. For Lu Ping, this was something he couldn't afford. The Alchemy Basics Jade Scroll introduced the basic knowledge of alchemy in detail. It even included a few blood-refining realm cultivation elixirs. However, they were all ordinary elixirs. Lu Ping no longer used these elixirs to cultivate, but it was a necessary practice for him to learn alchemy. The second Jade Scroll recorded a secret technique called blood sacrifice art. This secret technique involved refining an artifact with one's own blood and detonating it during battle. When it was still a low-grade artifact, the power of the explosion was equivalent to a full-force attack from a blood condensation realm expert. However, this secret technique not only consumed the cultivator's blood that contained magic energy, but it also required the destruction of the artifact. It could be said that killing 1,000 enemies came with 800 casualties. Chapter 36. This nameless reef island was located 50 kilometers south of Huangli Island. 3 days later, 3 streaks of light flew over from the west and landed on the reef. The newcomers were 2 women and 1 man, all wearing the robes of Jinling's disciples. Lu Ping actually recognized all 3 of them. The red-clothed woman was Hu Lily, who had traded a large number of top-grade blood talismans with Lu Ping after the trade fair. The green-clothed woman was the outer sect disciple Lu Ping had traded a low-grade magic tool, the copper mirror, with the copper mirror. At the time, she was still a third-rank Jinling disciple. The honest-looking man with the lowest cultivation was the one who had traded a piece of black iron for Lu Ping's Wolf Tooth Club magic tool at the trade fair. The 3 of them had actually come together. Lu Ping, who had been lying in ambush for almost 2 days with an invisibility talisman and spirit sealing talisman, was slightly surprised. The green-clothed woman looked around and said to the red-clothed woman, "Sister Lily, this should be correct. We've already been searching the sea for 2 months." Hu Lily smiled and said, "It should be correct. Before this, I spent several months looking through many jade slips before I was able to confirm that it was in this region of the sea." The honest-looking man behind her said, "Hee, it would be great if it really was cultivator Sheng Tao's cave. 100 years ago, he was a somewhat famous alchemist in the Northern Sea. It would be best if there were blood-condensing pills inside." Hu Lily glared at him and said, "Niu Dazhuang, don't always think of good things. 100 years have passed. Who knows what's left inside? Who knows, someone might have already taken it." Niu Dazhuang chuckled and said no more. The green-clothed woman said, "Brother Dazhuang, there might be a protective formation in front of the cave. Later, we might have to use Brother Dazhuang's magic tool to break the formation." Niu Dazhuang thumped his chest loudly and said, "No problem. It's not like you haven't seen my magic tool before. Although it's a low-grade magic tool, its attack power is definitely not below that of a mid-grade magic tool. I exchanged a piece of dark steel for it." When Hu Lily heard Niu Dazhuang mention the matter of the trade fair, she also said, "Speaking of that Lu Ping, I also exchanged dozens of best-quality talismans with him after the trade fair for the sake of this adventure. This person's skill in crafting talismans is very high, and he's also an expert among the third-grade disciples. If it weren't for the fact that we don't know his background, inviting him to join us would also be a good idea." Hu Lily suddenly thought of something and said to the green-clothed woman, "Zhang Jie, didn't you also make a deal with him?" The green-clothed woman, Zhang Jie, pursed her lips and said, "That guy is a miser. He took advantage of the magic tool we traded with him." A few dozen feet behind them, there was a fluctuation of arcane energy. 5 cultivators wearing Xianling sect's robes appeared. Obviously, they also used some kind of invisibility spell. However, the fluctuation of arcane energy just now told Lu Ping that it wasn't an invisibility spell or an invisibility talisman. It should be a magic tool specially used for invisibility. When the 3 of them saw that it was Xianling sect's disciples, their faces changed. They didn't have the time to ask how they were discovered. The 5 Xianling sect disciples obviously didn't want to give them a chance to ask questions. 5 mystic tools attacked from 5 different directions. Lily quickly treated her injuries and controlled a low-grade flying sword to defend against the 5 attacks with the other 2 disciples. Whether it was cultivation or numbers, Zhenling, Niu Dazhuang, and Niu Dazhuang were at a disadvantage. Moreover, Lily was seriously injured. Lu Ping looked at the situation in front of him. He was considering if he should help them secretly so that the 3 of them could escape. After all, they were all disciples of the same sect and had some friendship with each other. It would be best if I can injure 2 or 3 of the Xianling sect disciples at the same time. That way, I can reap the benefits. Just as Lu Ping was looking for an opportunity to strike, a new change occurred on the battlefield. Knowing that they were in danger, Zhenling, Niu Dazhuang, and Niu Dazhuang even used his injuries to smash junior brother Zhou, who had the lowest cultivation, causing him to vomit blood. Lily was quick-witted. While the Xianling sect disciples were panicking because of junior brother Zhou's injuries, she raised her hand and threw 3 talismans at the short junior brother Yin. Junior brother Yin was already distracted because of junior brother Zhou's injuries. When he saw the 3 talismans turning into 3 fireballs flying towards him, he knew that they were top-grade blood talismans and panicked again. Junior brother Yin barely managed to block the 3 fireballs with his magic tool, but before he could catch his breath, a flying sword flew towards him, and one of his arms was detached from his body. Zhang Jie, who was in charge of defending, was already bleeding from the 3 Xianling sect disciples' magic tool attacks. She was barely holding on. When the Xianling sect disciples saw that they had the upper hand, but 2 of their disciples were seriously injured, they were humiliated into anger. They gave up on the game of cat and mouse and attacked frantically. Zhenling, Niu Dazhuang, and Niu Dazhuang tried their best to defend, but they were still seriously injured. They were in a precarious situation. Just as Lu Ping was about to help them, a frightening sizzling sound came from the sea. Not far away, a huge sea serpent, more than 10 zhang long and as thick as a water bucket, slowly rose from the sea. Chapter 37. A huge sea serpent instantly appeared on the battlefield. Waves of palpitating pressure clearly told everyone that this was a blood condensation realm demonic beast. Lu Ping looked at the sudden change in the battlefield in fear. He was so frightened that he lay motionlessly in his hiding spot. Lily held on to Niu Dazhuang, who was on the verge of breaking down. Ignoring the injury on her shoulder, she used her other arm to cover Zhang Jie's mouth, who was on the verge of screaming. When the 5 Xianling sect disciples saw the sea snake, senior martial brother Qiao, who was the first to react, screamed, "Run!" He was the first to run towards the sea. The other 4 also chose a direction to run in. Lu Ping saw the disdain in the sea snake's eyes. A blood condensation realm demonic beast had indeed gained sentience. The sea snake looked at the 5 people running away. With a swing of its tail, it sent the injured junior martial brother Yin flying for tens of feet. He fell to the ground, no longer alive. The sea serpent opened its jaws and spat out a mouthful of venom. The female cultivators of Xianling sect quickly raised a defensive mystic artifact to block it, but a sizzling sound was heard and a puff of green smoke rose into the air. The low-grade defensive mystic artifact was corroded into several holes, and the female cultivators who couldn't dodge in time were covered in the venom. Amidst the shrill screams of the female cultivator, an aura of despair enveloped everyone. Lily and the other 2 stood there, not daring to move. 2 poisonous fangs flew out of the sea snake's mouth and turned into 2 mid-grade mystic instrument daggers. The daggers flew towards junior martial brother Zhou and the other cultivator. The 2 hurriedly used their mystic instruments to block, but the daggers suddenly changed directions and attacked in a different direction. Its speed was many times faster than blood-refining realm cultivators using mystic instruments. This was the benefit of having divine sense in the blood condensation realm. Mystic instruments could only be used to their full potential in the hands of blood condensation realm cultivators. Sure enough, the 2 cultivators were exhausted. After a few rounds, their bodies were cut by the daggers. Their faces turned black, and they fell to the ground, dead from the poison. In an instant, 4 of the 5 Xianling sect disciples were dead. The remaining senior martial brother Qiao knew he couldn't escape anymore. He turned around and faced the sea snake. 2 mid-grade mystic instruments, one for offense and one for defense, surrounded him. When the clown sea serpent saw this cultivator who had taken the initiative to change his mind, it became a little interested and was not in a hurry to attack. Lu Ping's position was behind senior brother Qiao at this time. He happened to see senior brother Qiao secretly take out an item from his storage bag. Then, his face turned blood red and instantly turned pale. Clearly, he had activated a secret technique. The sea snake seemed to have discovered something and suddenly attacked senior brother Qiao in a frenzy. The snake fang daggers turned into 2 cold rays of light as they shot towards senior brother Qiao. At the same time, the snake raised its tail and swept towards him. Senior brother Qiao suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood at the 2 Dharma artifacts. The 2 Dharma artifacts were stimulated by this and emitted a violent fluctuation of magic power. Their power was greatly increased, and they were able to barely resist the attack of the sea snake. Lu Ping had originally thought that the secret technique would use blood to stimulate the dermic artifact, but it did not seem like it. At that moment, a golden light flashed from senior brother Qiao's hand. The light grew more intense. The clown sea serpent became even more anxious and attacked even more fiercely. Senior brother Qiao's 2 Dharma artifacts were full of cracks and wailing, but they still stood strong to protect him. Looking at the clown sea serpent's performance, Lu Ping's mind flashed. Talisman treasure. It's actually a talisman treasure. This is something that a core forging realm enlightened master would seal their magic power and give it to their disciples for protection. I didn't expect senior brother Qiao to have such a thing. A blood refining realm cultivator would definitely need a long time to inject magic power to activate a talisman treasure. The secret technique just now must have accelerated the infusion of magic power into the talisman treasure. At the same time the golden light shone, Hu Lily pulled the other 2. The 3 of them quickly took out their respective Dharma artifacts and escaped behind the clown sea serpent. The clown sea serpent's attention was completely attracted by the talisman treasure. When it realized that the 3 of them were escaping, it just swept its tail at them. Hu Lily used all the remaining defensive blood talismans, and the 3 of them gathered together to resist. The clown sea serpent's tail smashed the talisman treasure easily and ruthlessly swept at the 3's Dharma artifacts. The 3 of them screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, they used the force of the tail to quickly escape, finally saving their lives. At this time, the clown sea serpent could no longer stop the talisman treasure from activating, so it no longer stopped the 3 of them from leaving. In fact, Lu Ping also wanted to leave, but senior brother Qiao was not far away from him. If he crawled up and ran away, he would definitely attract the attention of the clown sea serpent, which had not noticed him before. When that happened, he would be in trouble. Actually, Lu Ping was still dominated by greed. It was a talisman treasure. Maybe both of them would be injured. If Hu Lily and the other 2 escaped, he could be the one to reap the benefits and scrupulously. The golden talisman treasure slowly rose from senior brother Qiao's hands. The 2 mid-grade Dharma artifacts had finally completed their mission and were smashed by the clown sea serpent. However, when the clown sea serpent looked at the talisman treasure in front of it, a look of fear appeared in its eyes and it took a few steps back. Suddenly, a dazzling light burst out of the talisman treasure and turned into a golden short spear, stabbing at the clown sea serpent. The clown sea serpent let out a crazy sizzling sound. The scales on the clown sea serpent's body suddenly stood up, each of them at least 3 inches in size. The clown sea serpent opened its huge mouth at the fast-flying short spear. Venom and a dagger flew out one after another, colliding with the short spear. However, the short spear passed through the venom and knocked away the dagger. The light on the spear body only dimmed slightly. At this time, a long snake's tongue flew out of the clown sea serpent's mouth and turned into a short sword with a forked front. It went towards the short spear. With a loud clang, the short spear was finally knocked off course. At the same time, the light on the spear body dimmed again. However, The clown sea serpent did not have time to use other methods to block the short spear. The golden light passed through the clown sea serpent's body, leaving a huge bloody hole in it. The clown sea serpent's huge body was sent flying by the short spear. The huge body of the clown sea serpent trembled when it hit the ground, and blood splattered everywhere. The short spear turned into a talisman treasure again and fell to the ground. Senior brother Qiao, who had used up all his magic power using a secret technique, sat on the ground without any strength left. It seemed like it was time for Lu Ping to reap the benefits. However, Lu Ping was still lying on the ground, not moving at all. Sure enough, the clown sea serpent's head slowly rose again. The huge bloody hole was still dripping blood. The talisman treasure did not hit the clown sea serpent's weak spot. Senior brother Qiao, who had lost the ability to resist, was smashed to death by the clown sea serpent's tail. The clown sea serpent turned around and scanned the battlefield. Then, it turned around and crawled towards the cave. A cave that had just been discovered had yet to be explored, but a life and death battle had already broken out. The clown sea serpent had already kept the talisman treasure that had fallen to the ground. Now, Lu Ping could only hope that the clown sea serpent would enter the cave so that he could slip away. As for the wealth of the dead cultivators on the island, Lu Ping gritted his teeth and decided to wait and see. The clown sea serpent that was crawling towards the cave suddenly stopped. The intelligent clown sea serpent suddenly remembered that it had discovered two groups of people that day. Had the human hiding in the sea come? Lu Ping's heart tightened because of the clown sea serpent's sudden stop. Suddenly, he felt a cold sensation pass through his body. Not good, I've been discovered. Lu Ping cursed under his breath. At this time, the clown sea serpent let out an angry hiss and quickly crawled towards where Lu Ping was hiding. Chapter 38. Seeing the clown sea snake crawling towards him angrily, Lu Ping had no time to escape. He took out his mid-grade flying sword and stabbed it at the clown sea snake's eyes. The clown sea snake was angered by Lu Ping's provocation. Its snake-toothed dagger flew out of its mouth and blocked the flying sword. At the same time, it attacked Lu Ping with another dagger. A small stone tower flew up and hovered above Lu Ping's head. A yellow light curtain hung down from the stone tower and blocked the dagger. Lu Ping blocked the clown sea snake's attack and calmed down. After all, the clown sea snake was severely injured and its strength had decreased. Lu Ping immediately thought of a way to deal with the clown sea snake. He could not panic now. He could only fight with all his might. When the clown sea snake saw that Lu Ping had blocked its attack, it became even angrier and spat venom at the stone tower above Lu Ping's head. Lu Ping raised the jade bottle in the air, and a water column sprayed at the venom. More than half of the venom was blown away, and the rest was diluted. When it landed on the stone tower, it did not even corrode the protective yellow light. Seeing that its attack had failed again, the clown sea snake crawled forward for a distance. Lu Ping suddenly shouted, "Explode!" A few loud sounds came from the ground under the clown sea snake. Smoke, golden light, vines, and frost rose up. This was the mother-child ground lightning talisman that Lu Ping had developed based on the mother-child warning talisman. He originally wanted to use it to sneak attack Xianling's sect disciples, but now he was using it on the clown sea snake. The clown sea snake was caught off guard and was stabbed by the exploding fireball and golden sword. Although the defense of the scales on its body was extremely high, when it was caught off guard, all the scales on the parts that were attacked fell off, and a piercing pain swept through its body. When the clown sea snake was suddenly injured, it wanted to move its body, but a few vines and frost suddenly froze the snake's body. Seizing the opportunity, Lu Ping threw a mid-grade magic artifact he got from Lin Shang towards the wound that was pierced by the talisman treasure. The sea serpent's body could not move at will, so it could only send out the snake-tongue sword in its mouth. This was the sea serpent's natal dermic artifact and was extremely powerful. After hitting the flying sword, Lu Ping felt a tightness in his chest and was so upset that he wanted to vomit blood. Lu Ping resisted the urge to vomit blood and summoned the fifth flying sword. A ninth-layer blood refining realm cultivator was able to wield 3 mid-grade and 2 low-grade artifacts. If word of this got out, people would definitely think that Lu Ping's transcendence energy was inconceivably deep. Who would have thought that Lu Ping was already giving it his all, performing exceptionally? Even he himself did not know that he had already taken out 5 mystic instruments. This blood-red flying sword carried Lu Ping's last hope as it flew towards the clown sea snake resolutely. The clown sea snake felt a great threat from this strange flying sword. It tried its best to move its body to the side and at the same time recalled a snake-tooth dagger that was attacking Lu Ping. However, the snake-tooth dagger was too slow to catch up to the flying sword. At this time, the clown sea snake finally broke free from the various restraining talismans on its body. Even though it was a heavily injured blood condensation realm demonic beast, its physical strength was still terrifying. The clown sea snake lifted its huge tail to its chest to block the 5th flying sword. Ding! The flying sword pierced the scales of the snake tail, but it only pierced a few inches in. This small injury only caused a slight pain, so the clown sea snake didn't care about it. Just as the sea serpent was surprised by what it had just felt, a strange fluctuation came over. With a loud bang, the flying sword exploded, and the power of the explosion blew the sea serpent's tail into 2. The flying fragments cut wounds on the huge serpent's body, and one of the serpent's eyes was pierced and blood flowed out. Lu Ping was annoyed that he didn't hit the clown sea snake's vitals, but he was still surprised by the power of the blood sacrifice technique. The clown sea snake was heavily injured again. Although it didn't die, its strength was weakened again. Lu Ping was now in a terrible situation. The snake-tooth dagger and the snake-tongue sword were already enough to make Lu Ping tired. Now that he was using 5 mystic instruments, the transcendence energy in his body became even worse. Lu Ping had already lost count of how many essence recovery pills he had taken. Fortunately, the explosion of the flying sword had destroyed one of the snake-tooth daggers. The clown sea snake was injured, and the clown sea snake's attack stopped. Lu Ping quickly kept the flying sword and jade bottle, leaving only the other flying sword and the stone tower. The clown sea snake, which had been blown to the ground, turned to face Lu Ping again. Its remaining eye was filled with a crazy killing intent. Lu Ping began to flee on the island. The crazy clown sea snake raised everything in Lu Ping's path to the ground. Lu Ping saw that the clown sea snake was bleeding non-stop, so he wanted to dodge and exhaust the clown sea snake's strength. However, he didn't expect that the clown sea snake was a blood condensation realm monster. Its strength was far above his. Even though it was heavily injured, it was still faster than him. Left with no choice, Lu Ping used blood escape. On the island, a huge clown sea snake rode on a gust of demonic wind and chased after a bloody figure. Sand and rocks flew everywhere, and half of the island was destroyed by the clown sea snake. The furious clown sea serpent finally felt its physical strength slowly draining away along with its blood. Its magic power was also gradually drying up. The huge wound caused its entire body to spasm in pain. The exhausted clown sea serpent finally slowed down its speed. Lu Ping stuffed another blood spirit pellet and essence replenishing pellet into his mouth. Finally, he saw the result he was looking forward to, so he turned around and charged back. He was also at the end of his tether, so whoever could last until the end would be the winner and get everything on the island. At the thought of the unknown wealth in the cave dwelling, the interspatial pouches of the dead Xianling sect disciples, and the sea serpent, Lu Ping's eyes suddenly lit up and his dispirited demeanor suddenly perked up. On the other hand, the clown sea snake was getting weaker and weaker. Lu Ping's flying sword and flying knife flew up again, attacking the clown sea snake's wound, eyes, and 7 inches. At the same time, dozens of supreme-grade blood talismans turned into various spells and bombarded the clown sea snake. The clown sea snake finally experienced the feeling of death. Fear made the clown sea snake burst out with life force, desperately blocking Lu Ping's attack. Just as the clown sea snake was about to block Lu Ping's attack, the sky above its head suddenly darkened. Confused, The clown sea snake looked up and saw a huge metal seal with the word landslide on it falling from the sky and smashing into the clown sea snake's head. The clown sea snake's huge body struggled violently because of the injury on its head. Landslide once again rose into the sky and smashed into the ground. The clown sea snake's body trembled violently. Landslide rose into the sky for the third time and smashed into the ground. This time, the clown sea snake's head was smashed into the ground. The clown sea snake's body finally stopped moving. The clown sea snake's death caused Lu Ping to lose his fighting spirit. Lu Ping lay on the ground, not wanting to move a muscle. But not long after, Lu Ping struggled to get up again. He forced himself into a meditative posture and slowly circulated the blood condensation spirit melting art in his body. The spirit pellets he consumed earlier also continued to take effect. After circulating the blood condensation spirit melting art for a full cycle, Lu Ping forced himself to endure the exhaustion and started cleaning up the battlefield. Who knew if Hu Lily and the others would come back again, or if they would go to Xinqi Island to inform the sect's experts? Lu Ping had to leave before anyone else did. Chapter 39. After escaping death, Lu Ping started to tidy up his loot. He first collected the 5 Xianling sect disciples' interspatial pouches. There were a total of 6 mystic instruments, 2 of which were mid-grade and 4 of which were low-grade. Lu Ping looked at the 2 mid-grade mystic instruments that senior brother Qiao used with pity. These were obviously 2 high-grade mid-grade mystic instruments, but senior brother Qiao had overdrawn the power of these 2 mystic instruments in order to activate the talisman treasure. In the end, they were destroyed by the sea snake. In total, there were more than 1,300 spirit stones. Senior brother Qiao alone had more than 600 spirit stones. In addition to the talisman treasure, Lu Ping could basically confirm that this senior brother Qiao's background was probably even deeper than Lin Sheng's. As expected, when Lu Ping was counting the medicinal pills, he found a total of 6 bottles of blood essence pills, while senior brother Qiao had 2 bottles of blood solidifying pills and 2 bottles of blood essence pills. To Lu Ping's pleasant surprise, Lu Ping found 2 500-year-old spiritual herbs that could be used to concoct blood-condensing pills from Xianling sect's junior brotherine. Finally, he had gathered all 8 500-year-old spiritual herbs that could be used to exchange for the blood-condensing pills. Lu Ping's chances of entering the blood condensation realm had greatly increased. Just these 5 people alone had such a bountiful harvest. This made Lu Ping forget about his injuries and fatigue. He turned his attention back to the giant sea snake's carcass. Lu Ping had already experienced the toughness of the sea snake's skin. He estimated that it could be used to forge a mid-grade mystic instrument. Although one of the 2 snake tooth daggers was destroyed, the remaining one was an essential mystic instrument for sneak attacks and assassinations. Even though the snake tongue sword was the sea snake's natal mystic instrument, it could only be used as an ordinary mid-grade mystic instrument now that the sea snake was dead. Lu Ping used the flying sword to cut open the sea snake's carcass and dug out a huge snake gallbladder. This was one of the sea snake's essences. It was an essential ingredient for concocting a few types of blood condensation realm medicinal pills. It was worth a fortune. Lu Ping also found the sea snake's heart, which was still intact. This was the biggest reward he had obtained from the sea snake monster. Lu Ping carefully used the flying swallow sword to cut open the giant heart. For pearl-like beads of blood rolled out. Lu Ping hurriedly used the jade bottle he had prepared to catch them. Even after sealing it, he was still worried. So he put the jade bottle into a magical jade bottle that could prevent spiritual energy from dissipating. After putting away the condensed blood beads, Lu Ping let out a long sigh of relief. Only now did he realize that there were 4 condensed blood beads. This demonic beast had actually reached the 4th layer of the blood condensation realm. If he hadn't been injured by the talisman treasure, he would have become a snack for the sea serpent. That's right, there's still the talisman treasure. Lu Ping hurriedly rummaged through the corpse of the snake. It was clear that this was the first time senior martial brother Qiao had used this golden spear charm. After Lu Ping found it, he looked at the talisman treasure that was still glowing with a golden light. He felt its power and knew that it could still be used 2 more times. His heart was filled with joy. This was his trump card against blood condensation realm experts. The talisman treasure also needed to be refined before it could be used. This was also the reason why the sea serpent did not use it during its fight with Lu Ping. If the sea serpent had successfully refined the talisman, Lu Ping shuddered at the thought of it. Lu Ping thought for a moment and put the remaining snake meat into a storage bag. Then, he walked towards the source of the battle, alchemist Shang Tao's cave abode. Pill Refinement Master Shang Tao was just a rogue cultivator in the blood condensation realm. Due to his expertise in pill refinement, he had gained some fame 100 years ago. Lily had no idea where she found this information from, sorted it out, and eventually found his cave abode. The cave abode was very simple, but it was very spacious. Everyone had intentionally avoided the direction of the cave abode, so the inside was not damaged. In the cultivation room, Lu Ping found cultivator Shang Tao's corpse. In front of the corpse, there were 2 jade slips and an exquisite palm-sized storage bag on a small stone table. Lu Ping had only seen this kind of storage bag on Master Immortal Lu. The space inside was several times bigger than all of Lu Ping's current storage bags. It was the size of a house. Inside the storage bag, there were dozens of jade boxes. Lu Ping opened them one by one. They were filled with different kinds of spirit herbs. Each jade box contained 1 to a few stalks, and the quantity varied. In total, there were more than 200 stalks of spirit herbs. Lu Ping recognized about half of them. Most of them were spirit herbs used to concoct blood condensation realm pills. Among them, there were 3 types of spirit herbs used to concoct blood condensation pills. There were also more than 10 stalks of spirit herbs that Lu Ping knew were used to concoct blood condensation realm pills. Other than that, there were also 50 mid-grade spirit stones and more than 100 low-grade spirit stones. Even though Lu Ping was mentally prepared, he still couldn't help but feel excited. There were more than 5,000 low-grade spirit stones in there. As for the remaining low-grade magic tools, Lu Ping didn't care about them. Of the 2 jade slips, one was called Shang Tao's Pill Scripture. It was the summary of alchemist Shang Tao's lifetime experience in alchemy. At the end of the scripture, there were more than 10 blood condensation realm pill recipes and 5 blood condensation realm pill recipes. There was even a pill recipe for a core forging realm cultivator called the Golden Marrow Pill. It was something that Shang Tao obtained by chance, but he didn't have the ability to concoct it. The other jade slip was called Shang Tao's Notes. It was a record of Shang Tao's life experiences, especially the growth environment, cultivation methods, medicinal properties, methods of harvesting, and so on. It was an eye-opening experience for Lu Ping. Through this jade slip, Lu Ping identified more than 10 types of spirit herbs used to concoct blood condensation pills from the jade box in the interspatial pouch. Lu Ping bowed to Shang Tao's corpse and said, "Today, I was fortunate enough to receive Senior Immortal's legacy. I will do my best to inherit Senior's legacy. Even if my talent is limited, I will still choose another capable person for Senior. I will not allow Senior's legacy to end." After that, he turned Shang Tao's corpse into ashes and stored them in a jade bottle, ready to scatter them into the sea. Longevity and legacy were 2 of the most important things to every cultivator. Since Lu Ping had received Shang Tao's kindness, he naturally had to show his gratitude. Otherwise, he would feel uneasy. Lu Ping went to the alchemy room next door. The room was surrounded by wooden cabinets used to store medicinal pills. The jade bottles on the cabinets were already covered in dust. Lu Ping counted 40 to 50 jade bottles of various sizes. There were more than 10 types of medicinal pills in them. Most of them were blood-refining realm medicinal pills. After more than 100 years, most of the medicinal pills in the jade bottles had lost their effectiveness. Lu Ping counted. Only 7 of the jade bottles had blood condensation realm spirit-sealing talismans stuck on them. Thus, the medicinal energy of the pills was still intact. Among them, 3 were the blood vigor pills that Lu Ping desperately needed. The remaining 4 were blood condensation realm medicinal pills. Unfortunately, the blood condensation pills that Lu Ping had been looking forward to were nowhere to be found. In the middle of the alchemy room was an alchemy cauldron that was almost as tall as a person. It was a mid-grade magic tool, but if one were to measure its value, it could be exchanged for 2 or 3 high-grade magic tools. Alchemy cauldrons were hundreds of times more difficult than other magic tools. It required the cooperation of a blacksmith and an alchemist. Moreover, there were strict requirements on the materials used. This made every alchemy cauldron extremely precious. A low-grade alchemy cauldron was worth as much as a high-grade magic tool. Legend had it that the best alchemy cauldron in the Jinling sect was a top-grade magic tool. The elders in the sect had tried their best to upgrade it to a magic tool, but to no avail. Even so, the cauldron had to be approved by the Laozu sect every time it was used. Chapter 40. Lu Ping refined the cauldron and immediately put it into his new storage bag. Lu Ping walked around the alchemy room a few times, as if he was looking for something. Finally, he found a stone that was different from the rest of the floor in front of a futon beside the cauldron. Lu Ping stretched out his hand and pressed it. The stone slab on the ground in the middle retracted, revealing an array disc. In the middle of the array disc was a blue fireball the size of an egg. Lu Ping was overjoyed. This was the fire seed of the blue spiritual fire of the profound grade. This fire seed could be said to be Shang Tao's most precious collection. Naturally, it was also Lu Ping's biggest gain from this trip. This kind of spiritual fire was naturally formed between heaven and earth. According to the level of energy usage, it was divided into 3 ranks: heaven, earth, and profound. However, the quantity was not directly proportional to the level of energy usage. Perhaps in this cultivation world, there were a few more spiritual fires of the earth grade than the profound grade. However, no matter which rank, spiritual fires were extremely rare and could only be found by chance. It could be said that half of Shang Tao's fame as an alchemist came from this profound grade spiritual fire. This kind of heaven and earth spiritual fire could be used for alchemy. Naturally, it could be used for refining weapons. However, due to the scarcity of spiritual fire, most alchemists and blacksmiths used their own spiritual power to refine with the true fire. Although the effect was not much different, it wasted a lot of cultivation time. This was a contradiction that all alchemists and blacksmiths faced. The array disc below the blue spiritual fire was called the Burning Spirit Array. By embedding spirit stones into it, the blue spiritual fire could be ignited to refine. At this time, the spirit stones on it had been over 100 years. They had exhausted their spiritual power and turned into powder. Lu Ping sealed the spiritual fire and placed it in a jade bottle. Then, he put it together with the array disc into his storage bag. At this time, Lu Ping had been a little numb from the series of gains. He no longer had the ecstasy from every harvest. Lu Ping returned to the entrance of the cave. He placed a few spirit stones in a few inconspicuous depressions on the stone wall in front of the cave. Then, he struck out a set of techniques. Suddenly, the spirit stones on the stone wall flashed and Lu Ping disappeared. There was actually a small teleportation formation plate embedded in the stone wall of the cave entrance. In a sealed cave, a light suddenly flashed and Lu Ping appeared in the cave. Lu Ping had just appeared in the cave when he felt a faint spiritual qi surrounding him. Lu Ping felt happy in his heart. It seemed that Senior Shang Tao was right. In the past, alchemist Shang Tao accidentally discovered a miniature spiritual vein here. Overjoyed, Shang Tao decided to use this place as his cultivation base. He completely sealed the cave and used a spirit sealing array to confine the spiritual energy emitted by the spiritual vein in the cave. Then, he built a cave abode above it and left a secret transmission array to connect it to the cave. After that, Shang Tao opened up a half-acre spiritual herb garden in the cave for his own alchemy and cultivation. It had been more than 100 years since Shang Tao passed away. It was unknown how the spirit herbs he planted were growing. The walls of the cave were inlaid with flashing stones for illumination, and the water seeping out of the stone walls dripped onto the ground. Lu Ping took a few steps forward, and a lush spiritual herb garden finally appeared in front of Lu Ping. The spiritual herb garden was divided into 3 parts. The outermost part was where the spiritual herbs were used to concoct blood-refining realm pills. Most of them had already matured, but because there was no one to take care of them, and the spiritual energy in the spiritual vein was only enough to supply the spiritual herb's needs, the matured seeds would fall to the ground and continue to grow. The spiritual herbs had already grown densely. The innermost part was where the spiritual herbs were used to concoct blood condensation realm pills. Usually, blood condensation realm pills required spiritual herbs that were more than 500 years old to concoct. Because Shang Tao had discovered this place more than 100 years before he passed away, and with his special spirit urging technique, most of the spiritual herbs had already matured. There were actually 18 types of spiritual herbs that were used to concoct blood condensation realm pills. However, the spiritual herbs used to concoct the blood condensation realm pills were much harder to grow than the other blood condensation realm spiritual herbs. Out of the 50 spiritual herbs, only 5 had reached 500 years of age. The rest were not mature yet. Further inside were 3 golden marrow grasses. These 3 golden marrow grasses were cultivated by Pill Master Shang Tao with painstaking efforts. They were the main ingredients used to concoct the Core Forging Realm's golden marrow pill. The concoction of Core Forging Realm pills usually required spiritual herbs that were more than 1,000 years old. These 3 spiritual herbs were only close to 500 years old, which was far from meeting the requirements. Below the spiritual herb garden was the mini spiritual vein. Spiritual veins were rarer than spirit stone mines. Although they could not produce spirit stones like spirit stone mines, they could provide a constant supply of spiritual energy for cultivators to cultivate. Moreover, there was no need to worry about the spiritual vein drying up unless it was intentionally destroyed. Furthermore, spiritual veins could be nurtured and strengthened. For example, the spiritual vein on the True Spirit Island used to be a medium-sized spiritual vein. After tens of thousands of years of meticulous nurturing by the True Spirit sect, it had now become a large spiritual vein. In order to prevent the spiritual herb garden from being discovered, Lu Ping gathered all the mature spiritual herbs in the garden. 2 hours later, the transfer array on the stone wall flashed and Lu Ping appeared at the entrance of the cave abode. Lu Ping placed his hand on his chin. After thinking for a while, he started bombarding the island with spells. The ravaged island was once again in a mess. Afterward, Lu Ping destroyed the entire cave abode, erasing all traces of himself. Calculating the time, if Hu Lily and the others reported what happened on the island to their superiors, the cultivators from Xianqi Island would most likely come to investigate. Lu Ping released his flying boat and flew towards Huangli Island in the north. Not long after Lu Ping returned to Huangli Island, a few rays of light streaked across the sky and landed on the island. Among them were Hu Lily and the other 3 blood condensation cultivators from Xianqi Island. If Lu Ping was here, he would see that 2 of them were Master Immortal Lu and Master Immortal Shang, who had previously made things difficult for him. Hu Lily and the others looked at the mess on the island. Although they had already given up hope, their expressions still changed. The 3 Master Immortals looked solemn. They carefully examined the surroundings of the island and used their divine senses to search the nearby sea. In the end, they didn't find anything. Among the 3, Master Immortal Lu's cultivation was at the 7th level of the blood condensation realm, so he was the leader. Master Immortal Shang looked at the 2 and asked first, "What do you think, Senior Brother Lu?" Master Immortal Lu pondered for a while and said, "This sea snake must have cultivated a water-type cultivation technique and condensed the spiritual Jiao bloodline. Its cultivation should be at the mid-stage of the blood condensation realm." Another Master Immortal added, "That's right. But according to Martial Nephew Hu, the Xinling sect disciple, used a talisman treasure at the end. The strange thing is that even the weakest core forging enlightened master's talisman treasure should have been able to injure this snake demon." Master Immortal Shang smiled and said, "That's more like it. I think the snake demon must have gone berserk after being severely injured. It destroyed the island and made it impossible for us to find any clues." Master Immortal Lu said solemnly, "That should be the case. After all, 5 Xinling sect disciples died here. We need to report this matter to Enlightened Master Chu immediately and make preparations to prevent Xinling sect from using this incident to cause trouble for us."